Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting for Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. I'll start with the land acknowledgement. As we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of the Council and the community that the City of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. I'll call this meeting to order. Councillor Lafernier is attending remotely this evening. We do have quorum, so I'll move forward in regards to the disclosure of any pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Yes, Councillor Keel?
I'm going to disclose a pecuniary interest in item 9D, Music for a Cause. I believe that deals with the Robbie Dean Center, and although I did resign from the board last month, I think it's prudent to still spend a little bit of time declaring interest for the time being.
Thank you, Councillor Keel. So we've got a declaration of conflict of interest for item D under our new business, Music for a Cause. Any others? Seeing none, let's move on to the approval of an amendment of the meeting agenda. Yes, Mayor.
Mr. Chair, if we can add, before we have a motion in terms of the agenda, add a 9E, and if we could just call it pool fundraising so we can get an update from staff and address that. And if that's acceptable, I'd make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve the amended agenda with the inclusion of the pool fundraiser for item E, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All in favor? Good stuff. Okay, so we'll move on to, sorry, was there any errors or omissions in terms of the meeting agenda? I should have gone through that first, I guess. The approval of the minutes, we'll move on to the Parks and Recreation Committee minutes for January the 16th, 2024. Do I have a mover? So we have the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Jackno. All in favor? Carried. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations and delegations. So our first presentation is the parking fees and fines and proposed increased delegation. Mr. Lou Hamill. Please come and join us. Welcome, Lou. Please, if you could just move up to the mic and just turn on your mic, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, I think Colleen is online, so she'll
okay.
Introduce.
Thank you.
A report outlining various increases to parking revenues was submitted to the Planning and Development Committee on January 2nd. And the committee did table the report until staff could review the issues raised at the meeting. And some of the issues included meter increases, creating a matrix that recognizes the severity of fines based on community safety, and to ensure that the PBIA has had an opportunity to comment. I did receive a letter from the PBIA on January 15th, and they had 3 points. They were concerned about, they would like the city to consider delaying the meter increases until July of 2024. They would like to increase the meter rate from 50 cents to 75 cents. And they would increase the expired meter tickets to $15 instead of the proposed $35. But this evening, Mr. Hamill, who's the owner of Giant Tiger, is present to speak about his concerns about the proposed parking fees and fines increases that are being proposed in the PBIA. Just so that committee is aware, a detailed financial report will be provided on March 5th. So I will be listening to all of the comments made by Mr. Hamill and incorporate them into my report, and a detailed report will be provided on March 5th.
Ms. Sorial, I wonder if you had any interest providing the quick update that you and I discussed on Friday, as that might provide some brevity to Mr. Hamill's discussion. But I'll leave that to you to ponder about.
I was going to add that to my March 5th meeting, but if you wish, I can add that now. It's up to you. It's up to the committee.
Are you prepared to speak to it?
Yes, okay, so we've been looking into the meters in the downtown core, and there are two types of meters. One's classified as the old meters, and the second is classified as the new meters. So there's 51 new meters, and there's 147 old meters. And the old meters, we found out from McKay Meters, who's our supplier, they cannot be recalibrated, or they cannot be changed in any way without getting a new meter. And the cost of a new meter is $220 plus HST. So that if we were changing all 147 meters, that would be about $32,000. So just so that everyone is aware, they cannot be recalibrated. The 147 of them cannot be recalibrated, so there would be no point in recalibrating 51 of them. So that way the meter rate would stay at 50 cents an hour until there was some decision at a future meeting to discuss the meters and where we would go with the meters.
Thank you, Ms. Sorio. Is there any questions related to this update? Seeing none, then we'll move on to Mr. Hamel. Welcome.
Okay, thanks very much for your time tonight, guys, and I won't be too long-winded. I just want to discuss a couple of things that have certainly been of concern to me this last year, and I just want to remind everybody for this coming construction season that what happened last year was a travesty to the downtown, okay? And it went right out to, where Nelson's Pub is. It hit Mary Street, it hit Pembroke Street, and, what was supposed to be a project done in such and such time, the streets did not, or the main street did not reopen until December the 10th last year, which was 14 shopping days left until Christmas. And as a result, we're just, hopefully this spring, if we get some nice weather, we're going to see some of those customers coming back to the downtown. But as it stands, what happens in retail is when the customer is frustrated, they're going to go somewhere else. And their traffic habits and their habits of shopping change. And so as a result, that has changed, and we are still suffering here in the downtown with regards to that. And so I'm pleading that this summer, whatever projects that are going to be planned and executed, we can't go through another summer like we did last year, okay? And now we're starting to see it in vacancies downtown. Those are starting to pop up now, and that'll probably continue. I'm going to just speak off the cuff here, but Lisa and I got here in 2008. And I'll take you back to 2008 real quick. We walked the downtown, and at that point, there was probably 25 to 30 vacant storefronts during that time period. And it took a number of years and working with the PBIA and working with council to get things to where they need to be. So I'm urging us to be a little more cognizant of the planning process for roads, and because that was a killer last year, and that went right up to December the 10th. So what happens to the customer is they change their traffic pattern and they're going somewhere else. And we're just giving people another reason, to drive to Ottawa to do their Christmas shopping as well, because we're pretty close to Ottawa, and there's more choices, wider selection, the whole 9 yards. But we have enough here if we look after it in this community, and I see the community still growing, both in the housing sector as well as in the business sector. But we got to be cognizant of what's happening on the street and how long it takes to get that job done. And I don't ever want to go through that again. It was just that awful. So that affected our summer, which is our busiest season. If I was at Walmart, they would say the same thing, but they didn't have the same problem because everybody could get to Walmart. Home Depot had a good summer last year because everybody could get to the Home Depot, okay? But to come downtown, people bypass the downtown, and then we created that habit of, let's go somewhere else. So we've worked really hard down here to, rebrand ourselves, over the years, get things in place, continue to work with council and progress in the right direction. And I love this city, and I've been here, it'll be 16 years this July, okay? And so I have a vested interest, not just in my business, but in this community and the things that I'm involved with. And I'm not members of every club in town, but I certainly support those groups on a regular basis with, what's needed. So anyways, the meters are a necessity to keep traffic moving, okay? So you can spend thousands of dollars putting new meters in. We just need meters here to keep the traffic moving. We don't need anything complicated. We don't need to go out and spend, what's the cost for new meters for the whole downtown? Anybody know? Hazard a guess? I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I know Ms. Sorio knows the answer because it was in an email, but yes,
Yeah.
she has a number for you.
Okay. So anyways, I'm sure it's an expense, but the main thing with meters is just to keep the traffic moving and keep it flowing. And that's, it becomes a problem in the downtown, but we work around it. You've got enforcement in place, and so that, that seems to be working for us. But I don't know if you really need to go out and change all the meters. I think the other thing we need to realize is anybody who goes out to Walmart or Home Depot or even the mall or even the West End Mall, how much do they get charged for parking? Zero. So we're also competing against that, okay? And that's a competitive advantage that that end of town has, as well as the West End Mall. So every time we get talking about parking and, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to be thinking about, we got to get people down here, we got to get them back. We're going to have to work really hard to get that happening this spring. And, we're heading into a recession. The Bank of Canada is holding its position where it is. He's a very stubborn, my dad is an ex-banker, and if he was still living, he'd be screaming at the television set every night, right? But anyways, that's where we're headed, and if we just continue on the status course and not make some changes, I need to see some changes because, I'm getting very frustrated. And I'm a pretty positive guy, upbeat, and very supportive of Pembroke. And we've made this home for 16 years, and I'd like to retire here. That's my plan, plain and simple. But I need the help of this council and realize that this coming year that we're in already is not going to be a good year. And the vacancy rate is going to start climbing. And just remember, 2008, Lisa and I walked the streets, and nothing was happening. And then we just kind of scratched our heads, because we came here in the winter to see the store, and the snow covered everything. And then when we came here in August of 2008, we got to see the full effect of what an empty downtown looks like. And I really, really do not want to go there again, because it's not going to be good for any of us. And we need a strong downtown, and we need to look at, where can we help out in the downtown? And meters are one thing. I believe the meters keep the traffic moving. That's what they're designed to do. And, and then the other thing I mentioned today at a meeting with Bethia, I'm open to extending our lot to a 3-hour lot so that it complements your other 3-hour lots to make it simpler. That gives another oomph to the downtown because, Betty, who's getting her hair done and it takes 3 hours or 2.5 hours, doesn't have to worry about running out and putting another quarter in the meter, okay? So that can be done, and it's easy. We just change a sign, right? And then it just makes your big lots more conducive for the customer. Yeah, so right now the vacancy rate is growing, and at 6.1%. In 2014, it was 11%. And I'm going to hazard a guess, because I wasn't here fully for all of 2008, but I'm sure 2008 was the worst year that the downtown ever had. And then from there, we got the PBIA going stronger and better and more involved and diverse and just rebuilding what was lost. Because I wasn't here before 2008, so I've been looking at everything that's happened since then. The last thing I want to mention is Lisa and I have made substantial investments in our business and our store. We're constantly on the thing of renewal and improvement, keeping a clean store, well organized. The best customer service in the valley is at Giant Tiger Pembroke, and I get write-ins through our home office weekly on just how happy the customer in this marketplace is happy with our store. But they have to be able to get there, they have to be able to park somewhere, and I know it's constraining in a downtown, but we've done it before, and I've seen lots of good things happen, and I'm just a little concerned as we head into this year. We need to be thinking of, do we want to save this downtown? Because once that vacancy rate, interest rates haven't moved, it's been tough for small business. Last year, just with all the road construction, it affected everybody down here. And these are small business people, okay? I'm in between a small business person and the next level, but that doesn't matter. It still affects that wallet, so, okay? So I appreciate your time, and I think that was about it. And then just if working with the contractors, if we can just get better planning and commitments to things being done on time, December the 10th or 11th, whichever day the street opened, was unacceptable for the retailers down here, okay? Christmas starts after November the 11th. After we go to the Legion, lay our wreath, Christmas officially starts in this community. So we had from November 11th to December 10th that people didn't want to come down here, or they tried to come down here, but they couldn't get here, or they just said, screw it, and I'll just go to the East End. And that's the go-to now. So now we've taught all these customers, it's far easier for you to go to the East End, okay? And what's in the East End? The remaining part of Laurentian Valley. So who's getting those dollars? They are. So that's just dollars being taken from here and given over there. And it's the same side on the west side of town. Not as much retail, but there's restaurants and different things, okay? So that's my plea, and all I gotta say is I don't think I could stomach another year like last year, to be quite honest with you. And I've enjoyed being here, and Lisa has, my family has grown up here, and I just think that we've got to think of, you know, the business community. And I know most of you do, but I think everybody's got to get on the page, because that's how your taxes get paid. And I want to remind everybody that that store is probably the biggest taxpayer in this downtown. I don't think there's anybody that comes close to us, just because of the sheer size of our building, okay? And I thank you for your time and for listening, okay? And if you have any questions, I'm always at the store. Feel free to drop in, check and see how we're doing. And I want to stay here in this city, okay? But if it gets any tougher as time goes on, okay, Laurentian Valley is calling. And I like the downtown, I support the downtown, I believe in the downtown, but my God, if I had another summer like last summer, it's gonna be just a couple phone calls to the office, and then planning gets kicking, and then away we go. But I believe this downtown, it's going to go through some turbulence this year, and with just the way the economy is. But I still believe in the right climate, in the right economic climate, with how we deal with things here, makes all the difference in the world. Okay, so I need your support. My staff needs your support. Our customers need your support because they love shopping at that store. Every day I hear it. It's like every 3 customers. Just can't believe how clean this store is, how friendly your staff is, how knowledgeable, how caring. And that doesn't happen. And so as I said to Mr. Reed before he passed away, Mr. Reed was our founder. He passed away last July. I had spoken to him earlier in the spring, and he asked me in a phone call, he said, "How are you enjoying your store in Pembroke?" And I said, "I'm loving it." And I said, "It's like I died and went to giant tiger heaven." And he said, "That's a great way of putting it." But that was what he believed in. And he started in that fabric land and then took the leap to buy that monstrosity that we're in. And, you know, the rest is history, okay? So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
And if
Hamel.
you have any questions, you know where to find me, okay?
Do we have any questions from Mr. Hamel? Deputy Mayor Abdallah, please.
I just have a comment. So Louis, you and I have talked on the phone about numerous times about the parking downtown. And
Yeah.
when my dad had a store downtown years ago, some things never changed, you know,
Yeah.
as far as the meters go and the trying to get the free parking.
Yeah.
And I really want to thank you for extending your lot to a 3-hour.
Yeah.
To be in unison with the market lot and the Shamrock Park lot. And we value your store. It's a great store. It's a destination
Yes.
magnet for the downtown. And
Yeah.
and I hear you. I know council hears you.
Yeah.
I'm not in favor of increasing the meters
Yeah.
to $1. There's 2 rules in business. The customer's always right.
Yeah,
And the second rule, the customer's always right.
yeah,
You're the customer,
yeah,
and we've heard from the customers downtown. We've also, last month at the PBA meeting, we discussed the rates, and there were some very candid comments from some members
Yeah.
downtown,
Yeah.
how this past year was worse than the year before,
Yes.
coming out of COVID.
yes,
And so, as a council and the city, we need to do everything we can to support the downtown. Downtown is the social fabric of the
It is.
of the community,
It is.
especially with a connection to the waterfront.
yeah. And we have
And,
we have a beautiful downtown, a beautiful waterfront. I mean, it just goes
Yeah.
on and on and on.
So,
But it doesn't happen on its own. It takes
No.
it takes leadership and a great community to make that happen.
that's right. So I want to thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And fully support
And
your.
I thank you for listening to me, okay?
Thank you.
Councillor Jackno?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Lou, I can't believe it's 16 years that you've been in the community.
Yes,
I believe I went to welcome you and your wife when you first opened.
Yes, you did.
Walked into the door and
Yeah.
telling you how important you were then as you are now. I have a little bit of sympathy with you, a lot of it when it comes to road work, you know.
Yeah.
Contracts perhaps being put out too late in the season.
Yeah.
I don't know what the reasoning was, or finding problems when you're starting to dig up a street that you don't anticipate.
Yeah.
And there can be major works that, you know, put a project backwards. But to anybody who's in business is striving and struggling to make that bottom line, you know, that's not what you want to hear, that we found a problem. Well, perhaps we should be issuing those contracts earlier in the year, or trying to get a contractor. It's difficult sometimes to nail anybody down. I think that could be part of the problem. But I want to congratulate you as well on, you know, what you're talking about. I know malls are suffering too. The rents per square foot have become astronomical, and I think that's why you saw some new businesses here that maybe were stolen
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
mall. Some are closing. I mean, it's cyclical, of course, we all understand
which
that.
is good for us in the downtown. We don't mind
No,
stealing
don't mind that.
competitors, right?
Don't mind that at all. And I know the West End Mall went through some, you know, we had the manager of the mall come here, and they were changing their plans because the business certainly wasn't there for the smaller units. So they went to a storage unit within their mall,
Yeah.
you know, where they're,
Yeah.
which I had some issues with, but I mean, they're still paying tax, they're
Yeah,
still a
yeah.
business, so what's wrong with that? Highway 148, you know, we're talking about traffic changes. Well, Highway 148 coming up, you're gonna have some rerouting of traffic as well. I certainly hope that isn't going to hurt you, because people coming from Quebec, and I know a lot of them shop in your store from
Oh,
Port
yes.
Colon, Chapeau,
Yeah.
Sheenborough, you know, those areas.
That's where I've learned all my French, is
Yeah.
in my store.
And I see the Sheenborough lad sitting there in behind, sitting with the Chapeau boy. Yeah, Knickerbocker boy. But anyway, just cut a little short. I don't know how important you are to the Algonquin College people. I've met many international students there. I make a point of talking to them.
Yeah.
I spoke to a little girl there just this week from India.
Yeah.
And she said, "This is my first day. I hope I'm doing okay." And she had a big smile. And I said, "You know, there's Lou and his wife bringing in young students to help out and to give them some input into the community, make them feel at home. That is so important. So for that, I want to congratulate you, and I think it is our duty as a council to look at everything and to hear from you.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes we don't hear from you. I guess people think, well, everything's going okay. So it's good to hear, positive
Well,
critique.
a few people heard from me on a regular basis.
Well, that's okay.
last year,
Positive critique is good. And I know that His Worship and the rest of council, I'm sure understands, and you're probably the largest taxpayer in the community.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose that. We don't
No,
want to see that
no.
going somewhere else.
I don't either, but if things don't change, and if we're gonna go back to the same thing happening over and over and over again,
Yeah, I understand that.
that's where it gets to be, okay, this is ridiculous. And last summer was tough enough already with the weather,
Yeah.
never mind construction.
Yeah.
And then heading up to December the 10th.
COVID, we had COVID
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, well, we had COVID the year before that, but
understand that.
I'm looking at last year as the example, and I don't want to see another year like
Understand
that. It cannot happen. It
Well, if you
cannot.
move to Laurentian Valley, they're going to be digging up Highway 148, so you may be faced with the same problem. I hope not.
Yeah.
We want you here.
Yeah, yeah,
You're-
and
you're
listen,
invaluable.
I want to be here too.
And I
okay?
want to shop at your store.
Yeah,
I shop
yeah.
there all the time. I'm a regular
Absolutely.
customer, as many
Yeah,
people here are as well.
Absolutely.
Thank
So,
you.
And I appreciate the support. But I just wanted to make it clear where we're at, what we went through, and, I don't want it to be Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, okay, where the same thing happens day after day after day. And I'm not trying to insult anybody, I just have to give it an analogy, and Bill Murray sort of seems to, foot the face for that. But, I know it's not an easy job running a city. I appreciate, what everybody does in this community. But at the end of the day, bills have to be paid. And last year was not a great year for paying bills. And so I'm just pleading that, we look a little differently at our construction projects and the impact. And going up to December the 10th, that was only 14 days left till Christmas. And by that time, we had lost a whack of people that were coming, that would have came downtown, but just said, oh, I don't want to deal with the mess. So, okay? So thank you very much
Just-
for your time.
Just a second. Councillor Lafreniere has a question.
And we also have
On-
Councillor Keel. So we'll go Councillor Keel, then Councillor Fernier.
Lou, thanks for coming in. Certainly, I'm with you on the road closures. I
Yeah.
couldn't be more with you on the road closures. I remember waking up last summer to an email, to two emails. One said Pembroke Street's going to be closed as of Monday.
Yeah.
And the next email said Mary Street's going to be closed as of Monday.
Yeah.
I've lived here my entire life, and the first thought that went through my head is, how the hell do people get across Pembroke right
Yeah.
now? Because Nelson Street was already closed.
Yeah.
I hope staff are hearing that we need to do a better job in terms of the planning. It would be my position as a councillor that Nelson Street, Pembroke Street, and Mary Street should have never all been closed at the same time. And while I get that there's some, as Councillor Giacono alluded to, sometimes it's the contracts and things don't go as we plan, we nevertheless still planned on those three roads for last year. And maybe because of the potential shifts and things, maybe we should have just never planned for three major cross sections in the same year. So I think the planning, while I do believe staff does they do a lot of work on the planning, they put
Yep.
a lot into the procurement process, they spend countless hours with the contractors or whatnot. Maybe it was that we were just maybe a couple steps too far down the road to realize, that we had too much going on in the same vein last year. I think our communications could also be better. I know I also woke up last summer to a frantic Facebook message from two downtown businesses when they temporarily brought the Pembroke Street closure into downtown. They moved it the block forward, and the two people I spoke to said they were never warned that was even going to happen. So I couldn't be more with you that we need to take responsibility and do a better job in that regard. My understanding is that in 2024, I think we're giving Nelson Street a break, so I think we're foregoing that. But I do believe, and I think this has been mentioned a few times, I think we will be dipping into Pembroke Street ever so slightly as part of the Moffett Street project. I think, from my perspective, I think that's the only thing we're expecting this year.
That would affect the downtown, basically.
Yes,
yeah.
there's other stuff going on
Yeah.
for sure. But no, last year was definitely a mess, and I mean it wasn't just it wasn't just you, Lou. I have a couple family members on Isabella Street that were mad that there was too much traffic.
Yeah.
So the downtown didn't have enough traffic, as Isabella
Yeah.
Street had too much traffic.
Yeah, and when they got Mary Street open, I mean, it was Speedway to the east end,
Yeah.
basically, is what happened.
I think you're also underestimating some of your negatives. The one thing nobody's mentioned so far is Amazon and online purchasing.
Yeah.
You're all competing with that as well.
Oh,
and,
yes.
And there's nothing anybody locally can do about that. So I think, I think we do, if we want to have a downtown.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, Lou, when I came back
Yeah.
from law school in 2010,
Yeah,
I was ready to write off Pembroke's downtown.
yeah,
And the reason I say that is because when I was in Windsor, Windsor did write off their downtown.
yeah,
They repassed the zoning bylaw. They said you can put residential on the first floor, you can put office space on the first floor. Basically, they said, if nobody wants commercial, then fine, do whatever you want. But they were hoping that someone would just use the buildings.
yeah,
And so with that mindset, I came back to town, and the downtown wasn't doing very well. I mean, you said it, I'll say it publicly.
yeah,
I think, I think the last mayor, Mayor LeMay, was constantly trying to promote the downtown, and it came back to a level that I would not have predicted. And so I think it's always going to be a fight. I mean, we mentioned the parking. I had a conversation with somebody up at the mall. I was getting food, and I said to them, I said, do you ever go downtown? I don't mind going to Sipsters or Little Things Canning for lunch. And they said, well, I can never find a parking spot in front of the store. I have to, I have to park in one of the lots and walk a block to the store. And this is a friend of mine, so don't think I push around random people. This was a friend of mine, but I said to them,
I wouldn't think that.
I said to them, well, where are you parked? And they said, well, behind the food court. And I said, we got a Mark's bag.
Yeah.
So I said, you didn't have a problem walking from the parking lot into the food court all the way down to Mark's to come back and get food.
Yeah,
I said, I guarantee you that the parking lot radiuses downtown are going to be, and of course they don't have a comment for that.
and it would have been faster for them to get really good food and not just the chain version of, whatever's left in the mall, so.
Well, I'm not going to hit on the poor people in the mall because I like my Dino's Pizza as well.
No,
but,
so do I.
But no, they're willing to walk halfway across the parking lot and do
Yeah.
laps of the mall.
Yeah.
But then tell you that they're not willing to
Yeah.
walk a block from a parking lot. So I think some of it is perception. For some people, we'll never get through.
Yeah.
But I'm on board with you to say that we have to keep promoting the downtown. We have to keep investing in the downtown. The downtown is a heart of this.
It is.
It is a heart of this city. And, if anybody wants to look at the downtown and say, well, it has its problems, well, malls are now moving to storage lockers and
Yeah.
office space. They got their problems too.
Yeah.
So that's why I did want to bring up the online shopping, because when you're putting your credit card in online,
Yeah.
with all due respect, you're probably sending more money out of the country than you're ever keeping inside the city of Pembroke.
That's right.
But
But the good news is, Lisa and I do very little online shopping. It might be for something, size, fit, and color, for one of our kids at Christmas time. But other than that, I mean, the community supports the store, and even we support the store. And just so everybody understands, Lisa and I do not get free goods from Giant Tiger. Okay, we pay for our stuff just like everybody else. There was this misconception years ago that Russ and Susan and Lou and Lisa, they just help themselves to whatever. But I get a nice employee purchase program when I submit all my receipts. Okay, I get a check from Giant Tiger, and then that lets Giant Tiger know that Lou and Lisa are honest and they're running their business properly. And in all the years I've been with Giant Tiger, I'll celebrate 20 years with Giant Tiger this July the 4th. Prior to that, I was 20 years with Canadian Tire, opening stores across Ontario, moving my family umpteen times. Prior to that, I was 5 years with Zellers and Sarnius. So 45 years in retail this July. And I have no plans for retirement. My wife does, but I don't, so.
Well, and Lou, I'll end my comments by saying the other thing that you didn't mention was how much you and Lisa give back to the local community.
Yeah.
The number of things that you sponsor, the number of things that you
Yeah.
donate to. I would imagine you probably even do more quietly than the things that I publicly
yes.
know
Yeah.
about.
No, we're very,
So
we're
I
very
certainly,
stealth.
I
Yeah.
certainly don't want to lose you because I know what you give back to the community,
Yeah.
and it is a lot, frankly. And I hope everybody out there knows that.
Thank you. Ms. Lafernier?
Sorry. Hi, Lou. I could not say hi to you tonight. Hi. I've heard everything, and I'm not going to repeat everything that you've heard, but I agree with most of what's been said tonight. You know, when you said bills have to be paid, I mean, that's really what this is all about, because the reason we were even looking at fees was we were looking at all fees. Budgets were tough this year, and bills do have to be paid. You're right. That's why we were looking at meters. We're looking at all fees throughout the city, you know, recreation wise too. So, but your comments and your concerns has not fallen on deaf ears. I think we've all heard it. I agree with Councillor Keel when he says there's a number of things, you know, including online. And as you said, the economy has taken a dive. A lot of the clientele that normally shop downtown are young families who probably got hit with a large interest increase on their mortgage. That also is going to affect those habits. I never stop shopping downtown, and I see you almost every time I'm in Giant Tiger. But you know what? Like I said, I'm not going to belabor it. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for your concerns, and I'm sure that all of us are listening. And it's definitely going to affect, I'm sure, our decision going forward. So thank you,
Okay.
and
Thanks, Pat.
good night. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Fernier. For the sake of time, I think we should move forward. Is that okay? Okay, certainly.
Lou, I was down, I had a member of the business community call me some time ago. Nothing was going on. We weren't helping promote business as a council. Very, very negative. But I went to see her, and she said nothing happens in this community. So I had a bit of a tete-a-tete with her. I said, you know what? I said, you have a little business right here. And I said, 4 or 5 times a year, you've got thousands of people running past your business.
Yeah.
You know, there's two major, there's the Armstrong Initiative for raising funds for cancer,
Yep.
the Krista Johnson one.
Yep.
And I said, you've got thousands of people going right by your door. What do you do to attract them? Well, that's not my job. Well, excuse me.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got a market
Yeah.
going right by your door,
Absolutely.
it is your job
It
to
is.
try and entice those people.
Yeah.
You got the Santa Claus parade with thousands of people. What happens when the parade's over? Everybody's gone. And I mean, should the PBIA or somebody, I was in advertising all my life. I look at the innovative ideas. What do you do with those people? They just leave? Do you offer them something? Do you give them 2% discount or 10% or, come on, yeah, and I mean, I know the time of the evening, et cetera.
Yep.
But I mean, we had a Midnight Madness. We opened up the stores till midnight.
Yep.
The Woolworth store did $250,000 in one day.
Yep.
And how I know that is because I was there
Yep.
coordinating
I
that
believe
event.
it. I
We
believe
did.
it.
We had to hire police to take the money to the bank.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just saying, you had the Halloween, thousands of children and parents. I drove by here, I was just blown away. And I mean, people will say business, well, we gave out candy. No, that's not the idea. You exposed your business.
Yeah.
Maybe that person, it's your job to entice them into the store and say, did you see what we have here? Seeing that maybe that's off the wall, but you have the opportunity. You've got the international, the festival, multicultural festival at the waterfront. You got the bass tournament. It's not like we don't do anything, as a community. I think what has to happen is we have to look inward as a community, as a city, to work with you guys to say, hey,
Yeah.
how can we bring this all together? to help our, our biggest asset, which is downtown Pembroke.
And it is the biggest asset this community has.
So food for thought,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, I know when a person says to me, I have no way of making a buck, but you got thousands of people going by, you got families watching them.
Yeah.
They got to do something after. Where do
Absolutely.
they go?
Yeah.
Bring them downtown. You got the Silver Stick tournament. I met a lady from Texas who spent $3,500 doing all her Christmas shopping here.
Yeah.
She said, I'm here, it's Christmas, I'm going to spend money. So, I mean, those things bring money to the
Oh,
community.
yeah, absolutely. And we do get those. So
It's our
that's-
job to
that's-
work towards
Yeah,
getting in there more.
absolutely. But we need roads and infrastructure
You
to
do.
get them
You
there.
got to get them to the front door.
So that's the bottom line.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mr. Hamel.
Okay, and thank you for your time, and I
Appreciate
really appreciate it. And like I said, Lisa and I love this community, and we would like to plan retiring here. And our staff are awesome, and we've got a great team there. There's a few people there that want to retire, but for the most part, I'm still enjoying it. Lisa's still enjoying it, and so we want to keep the Tiger going. And I like being downtown, so I'd like to stay downtown, but I need your help to get us there. That's like, I can't say it enough, I can't go through another summer like last year.
I'm sure your message is well heard, and I just wanted to just add one comment, and
Yep.
it was just more or less just to say that, just it demonstrates the importance in terms of shopping local.
Yeah.
Keep the dollars within our city.
Yeah.
Those dollars go to employee individuals.
Yeah.
Lou, I know that you do a lot for our community that people don't really understand, but I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for the the support that you provide the various different charitable opportunities, making the lives of some individuals a lot better. That's for sure. So thank you so much for your
Okay,
presentation
and thanks-
tonight, and we
thanks for your
definitely hear.
time and listening to my rant tonight. So, okay.
Thank you so much. All right. So we'll move on to any business arising from, I guess, the presentation. Business arising from minutes. Not really sure what that is. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. So we'll move on to new business. So we have the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association annual budget. And do we have, okay. CAO will be presenting, Mr.
Yeah,
Arnold.
sorry about that, Mr. Chair.
No problem.
So Melissa Marquardt from the OVTA, she was here at our last meeting on February 6th to present the budget, but also provide a presentation. And this is really just a housekeeping item. We should have passed the budget at that meeting. And so it's just looking for a motion to pass this budget.
So I get a motion, so Councillor Keel, and seconded by Deputy Mayor Gala. All in favor? Carried. Next we'll move on to item B, in terms of the Bass Fishing Derby, Greater Petawawa Civitan Club request. Mr. Grosche.
All right, thank you and good evening. So the recommendation for this report is that the Parks and Recreation Committee approve the request for the Greater Petawawa Civitan Club for the use of space at Centenary Park and any other fees associated for their annual fishing derby on August 10th of this year. So just a bit of background on this one. So the club obviously does service the area of Petawawa and Pembroke, and they are looking to plan again their annual bass fishing tournament. So this tournament generally happens every year at the Pembroke Marina. And their participation numbers are actually growing. So each year they are seeing a few more boats on the water, which is great to see. And they've also been very involved in the community as for donating monies back. So last year they donated $6,000 to 3 different food banks in the area. So it is pretty substantial. And the other comment I want to make too is that we are seeing a decline in these service groups, right? Like these service groups are just not lasting forever. So it is something to see. It's really great that they are active. Typically staff do deal with them with logistics. It's very minimal, maybe a few picnic tables, garbage cans, those type of things. As far as the financial implications go, the daily launch pass for this upcoming season would be $7.96 plus HST per boat. They're estimating somewhere between 40 to 45 fishing boats that would participate in the event, which essentially translates into a fee waiver of somewhere in the neighborhood of $350 to $360. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Dell.
So this event has grown over the last 2 years, and it's always wonderful to go down there and see the fish coming in, all the people watching the fish being weighed, and all the entrants and visitors. And this is what we call a destination event for the waterfront park. And I gladly move that we accept the recommendation to host this event again.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Jacknell? Councillor Keel, you'd like to speak? Oh, sorry, I just thought you were seconding.
Thank you,
My apologies.
Mr. Chair. I am seconding to speak as well. Another opportunity, I think if you look at the demographics who spend a lot of money with a hobby, you'll find that hunters and fishermen spend a lot of money. Lures are when I'm going fishing in the park, the price of a lure is no objective because I got to look at that as catching that big trout that I want. Not necessarily will catch it. However, my wife said, you spent all that money on lures, where are the fish? But that's not the point. The point is to keep the economy rolling. So, I mean, obviously, these people are going to fill up with gas at the marina. They're going to probably shop down here a little bit. I don't know. Maybe there's some way to entice them. We'll have that weigh-in take place at another area. I don't know. I'm just saying. You get them moving around a little bit. It doesn't all have to be focused at the marina. They're launching their boat there, but perhaps have something for them. Have a fish fry. I don't know. Come up with an idea where you bring them into the area right here on the main street for some reason. There are ways of doing that. But I truly respect the fact that tournaments of this nature, and I know that we see Mr. St. Shaw sitting in the audience. He's an avid fisherman. I know he's caught some whoppers in his day. And we know that, a lot of these fishing shows go online. And they're actually the, what's the Suzuki? Well, not Suzuki, but Izumi? Wild Izumi. It goes national. It goes all over North America.
Scuttlebutt Lodge, red fishing.
No, not that one too. But anyway, I mean, any publicity is good publicity. If we're bringing people into the area and they're saying, wow, I'm going to Pembroke, they have a bass tournament there, blah, blah, blah. That's how it rolls. That's how it begins to germinate and to grow. So anything we can do as a city, I don't know, maybe we'll sponsor a trophy of some nature, Your Worship. I don't know, we'll call it the Mayor Jerva Memorial Trophy, not memorial. Just kidding. But there are ways of making this grow. So, Mr. Hamill was here earlier talking about how do we do it, how do we keep it vibrant. We have the opportunity right here, and we have the tools. We don't have to create them; they're here. Thank you,
Councillor Keel.
In one slip of the tongue, you raised both the blood pressure of the mayor and the deputy mayor. That was interesting. I'm going to oppose this. We need to start. The city of Pembroke can't continue to be a charity. I don't know what the deputy mayor's definition of a destination event is, but it seems to be everything that we put on in Pembroke that attracts 12 people is a destination event. This is not a destination event. Something like the Multicultural Festival that brings in thousands of people, that's a destination event. Silver Stick is probably our premier destination event. 40 to 45 fishing boats is not a destination event. Reflecting on what Councillor Jacquinot said, the cost of these lures. These guys are probably spending more on their fishing equipment than the $7.96 for the fishing boat thing. We're looking at having to, I believe we're looking at having to look at our docks soon and replacing them. At some point in time, we're going to have to replace the boat launch. Every time that we give away these freebies, we're putting the future cost of fixing something not on the back of the user, but on the back of everyone else. We're getting lambasted on Facebook right now for a 7.94% increase. We're getting lambasted on Facebook right now for even thinking about transit, even though I agree with it, because people are saying, well, I don't use that. Well, I don't use that. We need to start having the people using the item help pay for the item. And so I don't think, this is just, these guys are spending way more money going to their bass tournaments than the money we're actually looking for in terms of collecting at the marina. We can't keep doing this to ourselves. Otherwise, it's, right now it's the pool, next it's going to be the ice rinks. The thing after that we're going to be talking about is who's paying to fix the marina. We need to start thinking with our heads and like a business and less like a charity.
Deputy Mayor Abdallah?
Yeah, so 12 people, 1,500, 45 bass boats, minor ball, Riverside Park, Multicultural Festival, they're all destination events. Skateboard park, 100 people show up with their families, that's a destination event. Gets people talking about Pembroke, spreads the word. It's all inclusive. Civitan Club has been around many years, $6,000 donated last year to 3 food banks in the area. Part of our role at City Council is to work with partnerships with the community. So whatever we can do to spur tourism and donations being raised is a wonderful thing. Just like we have music events down at the amphitheater and waive the cost of certain fees. Everything is taken at one-on-one, case by case. $350 that we're going to be donating back to the community so the Civitan can raise this kind of funds. So the economic spin-off is very important. And so that's why it's a good event.
May I speak from the chair? Director, I know the pumps are planning on being replaced. Is that going to impact the availability for fuel at the marina in August?
That's a great question. So that's going to be one of the projects that we're going to be working on right away. So it just all depends on tendering and availability. Our plan is, if everything works out, we're hoping to have it by late spring, early summer. But again, it just depends once we get going with the actual project itself to understand the timeline.
After hearing, Mr. Hamill in regards to, some of the concerns he had regarding business, is the association aware that there could be potential, issues in terms of getting fuel if the project is delayed for whatever? I just want to make sure that there's an awareness.
We haven't mentioned anything at this
Okay.
point in time. We'll likely flesh that out once we meet with them, just with their logistics and what they're looking for.
Right.
And we'll have a discussion then.
Thank you. I just want to kind of go back and kind of address, Councillor Keel's concerns. I do have the same concerns, but that being said, I kind of look at, each individual situation. To me, $350 to $360 in terms of, not getting those fees in regards to docking fees. I think it's, based on where the donations are going to our various food banks and various different Special Olympics and other special causes. I do support that, but I do have the same concerns, but I think, we kind of have to look at these situations one by one and see the benefit that we have to our local community, and I think this is an opportunity to, showcase again, our marina, bring some other individuals into our city. Hopefully they'll do a little bit of shopping at Lou's store while they're here. But I think we have an opportunity there just to kind of, improve for years to come. So I will be supporting this. Nope. Mayor, anything? No? Pat?
Yes, I'd like to speak.
Oh, please.
I am under the same opinion as Councillor Keel. When Mr. DeRoche first came on at Recreation, we had many meetings, and Ian was really interested, and I think he sat in, sorry, Councillor Keel called you Ian. He sat in with Councillor Purcell and I and Jordan on a few brainstorming, and we all agreed we can't keep giving it away. Much like the planning department, someone comes in, they're building something, we don't waive permits and we don't waive those types of fees. And I think we have to take a harder line with it, to be honest. And other municipalities around us have a no waive, like they don't waive fees, and they say it to everybody. So everybody's on the same platform. And I understand that a lot of these organizations give back to the community, but we have to look after our community. And like, again, we just came through really tough budgets. Recreation always takes the hit. I mean, I'm not saying that, but we're going down that same road again, aren't we? You know, let's just give it to them. We need to build up our capital. We need to have revenue coming into the recreation department to continue to provide services. I know it's not a lot of money, but we have to start somewhere, and we have to set firm fees, unless it's an extreme situation. But I mean, we have to look after our own residents. We are not giving away their tax dollars. You know, that we're picking their charity. If you look at it that way, I had a resident once say to me, well, why'd you waive the fee to that charity? If I want to give money to that charity, I will give money to that charity. So that came from a resident in the city. So that's just something to think of. So as much as I have always supported not-for-profits and things of that nature, I think we have to start putting more money back into recreation. And we even just talked about raising fees and permits and things. So if we're going to waive them all, why raise them? Anyway, I want you all to think about that. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fournier. So the question is in regards to the request from the Greater Petawawa Civitan Club to use the space at the Centennial Park and any other fees associated. Sorry.
I'll put a motion forward.
I believe there's already a motion that's on the floor,
Oh, okay.
and it was seconded.
Sorry.
Yes. So
Okay.
so based on that, then we'll go ahead for a vote. So all in favor in terms of approving the request? So 3. Against? Sorry,
I'm
Councillor
against.
Fernie. Against, 2 against. So-
Against.
The chair has a vote.
Yes. So, sorry, 4 to 3. Yes. Passed. Next, we'll move on to the request for use of space for the Krista Johnson Memorial Run for change. Again, Mr. Drochet.
All right, thank you. So the recommendation here is that the Parks and Recreation Committee support the use of green space for Krista Johnson Memorial Run for Change on June 9th at Riverside Park. So we recently did receive a request from the organizers of the Memorial Run. And essentially, they're just looking to use the Fitness Grove. Of course, there's no fee to use that, but it's more or less keeping us in the loop, making sure that we understand timelines and that there isn't other things that are going on in the park. The event features a 2-kilometer, 5-kilometer, 10-kilometer, and half marathon. So this is great for different levels of those that enjoy running. The annual fundraising run supports the Elevate Youth Wealth Center, and this is a place that offers fully equipped and supervised fitness studio. It has yoga as well as some cooking classes, and as well as a girls group known as Live It Up. So at this point in time, there are no financial implications, and I'll turn it back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drochet. Deputy Mayor Abdallah.
Yeah, this is an annual event to carry on the legacy of Krista Johnson, who was fully committed to the youth of the community. The PBA meetings are held in the Phoenix Center, and that is where the Elevate Youth Wellness Center is. I often see the youth there in action at the yoga and the cooking classes. So I would proudly support that they be allowed to use the green space. Motion.
Motion moved by Deputy Mayor. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Keel, would you like to speak?
Sure, I think this is exactly the type of thing that the city should be doing, where other interested parties are putting in the work and putting in the effort and raising the money and whatnot where there's costs. The city should have no problem acting in a supporting role. I think that is precisely the job that the city should be doing, and I'm more than happy to support this annual event.
Thank you. Councillor Jackno?
Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Drashi, would you have any idea of how many registrants we would have for that event? Or how many people in a ballpark figure would attract to the community?
Good question. Off the top of my head, I don't. I could get that information. I know that I believe since the run came back, numbers were down a little bit, but I believe it's starting to come back up. But I can certainly get some of that information for you.
Thank you. Can I speak from the chair? Thank you. I had the pleasure of knowing Krista, and I know that her goal was in the community was to make a better place for everyone. her dream was to, provide supports to youth. And I know that this is an important fundraising event that's held annually downtown. I think it raised about $18,000 last year. And again, the supports go to the Elevate Youth Wellness Center in Pembroke. So I think, this is a really important and worthwhile initiative, and more so that it's in the memory of Krista Johnson. So can we get a vote, please? All in favor? Approved, carried. Thank you. Councillor Keel has left the table. So Music for a Cause, request for serving alcohol. Mr. DeRoche.
All right, thanks again. So the recommendation for this report is that the Parks and Recreation Committee approve the serving of alcohol for the 2024 Music for a Cause at the Waterfront Park in keeping with the requirements of the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario for appropriate alcohol permits, and confirm that the event does not knowingly contravene any municipal bylaws. So again, this request came through by the Robbie Dean Centre, and last year, whenever they initially brought this event forward, they did want to have it as an annual event. Based on the success of last year's event, they have asked us if they could run it again. This year's event would take place on July 27th, and the event is featured from 11 a.m. till 9 p.m. They actually figured somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000 people attended the event last year, and they raised $4,500, which all went back to the Robbie Dean for mental health awareness. As far as the financial implications go, there will be a rental fee that is imposed at the Riverwalk Amphitheatre, and that's in association with Schedule D of the user fee and charges bylaw. Thank you.
Mayor Gervais?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The event went very well last year, and so I would move that we approve the recommendation.
Thank you. Seconder? Deputy Mayor Abdallah?
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Approved?
Yay.
Thank you, Councillor Bernier. All right, so I guess we're moving on to the addition, which is the pool fundraiser. And we'll go with Mr. Unruh. Just a brief update.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So through the chair to the committee. So I guess there has been some confusion, I guess, expressed with respect to the fundraising. And so just provide some background in regards to the confusion. So there is the fundraising page that is done through the City of Pembroke, and there is the community fundraising group. So just background in regards to the city fundraising page. So Canada Helps page was established approximately 2 years ago, and that was established for the seed campaign, very successful seed campaign at Festival Hall. And so we've left that account open and active, and so that page has always been there, the Canada Helps page. So in the discussions through the budget and in regards to the fundraising, this was brought up again, the idea of creating a button. That was the one thing that was talked about a lot at the around the budget table. So after the January 16th, I had mentioned at that meeting that we can do that, and the idea, the impression that I had received was that we would proceed with that. So shortly after January 16th, we did proceed with that page, and it just sat there in the background since that time. It got a lot more press over the past weekend, not this weekend, but the previous weekend. So on February 10th, there was a CTV news report. And then on the Monday, February 12th, both the Observer and YFM ran articles in regards to the fundraising that was going on and shared the link. So last week we did receive a lot of comments and questions in regards to, is this the city's page? What is it? And so just to make sure that there was some legitimacy behind the page, then we put out a Facebook post just saying, here is the page if you want to donate. In regards to the community, I'll kind of characterize it as what we would be receiving through this Canada Helps. Although the Sea campaign was very successful, I think it's at a different level. I kind of looking at it, if we still had pennies, but like the nickels and dimes, we'll say, would be received. The community campaign, as far as my knowledge of them, they're very well organized, very enthusiastic group. They're going after the loonies and toonies. They're going to be probably, I don't want to put pressure on them, but I would say like 20%, or 20 times more successful than our little campaign. Ours is like very passive. There's no above and beyond launching the button. That's all that would be happening. So I guess I'd put it back to council to say if we want to continue with that button. And it was my impression, through the direction from council, that we initialized that button right away. So we can, keep that button going and support the community fundraiser, or just kill the button altogether and leave the community fundraising do what they want to do. I think Treasurer has something else to say.
So it's been a number of years that the City of Pembroke has been a qualified donee. In other words, that anybody can make a donation to the city and they'll receive a tax receipt for it. So it doesn't have to be for the pool, it can be for any reason. So when we opened up the Canada Helps campaign for the Festival Hall, it kind of has two pieces to it. It has the front page where we had to register our organization. And within that, you can have different, if you look at how other cities have it, you can kind of direct your funds to different causes. If you want to have your money go to Parks and Recreation, or, different sort of features of the municipality, you can direct it that way just on the main page. And then with Canada Helps, you can also do very specific pages on certain initiatives. So we kind of used just that so no matter what, we always have that general page, but we also have a specialized page for campaigns. And that's what we did for Festival Hall. And that's what we created for the pool, just so we have, if you want to donate to the pool, it's a click away essentially to do it. I have on the weekend went in and turned on a button just to show how much has been raised on the platform so far. So that will update automatically right now. And any funds raised have to be spent as specified in the campaign. And I have created a special reserve fund for the money, and any money raised can only be used for the purposes specified and not for anything else. And again, the municipality is very transparent. We're subject to MFIPA, so it's not like the money can go anywhere else. Anybody can ask at any time for information. And other than people's credit card information and that kind of thing, we'd be obligated to give it through an MFIPA request. So, thanks.
Treasurer. Councillor Keel?
So this one, I actually found this one to be kind of interesting, because I don't know about the other councillors, but the emails that I were getting actually seemed angrier than when we closed the pool. And I believe it's because they were coming from some very committed people who, quite possibly for the first time in their lives, have decided that they would raise money for a government organization. I know a lot of the people involved raise money for charities, and I think if we added up the individual players in the pool campaign, they've probably raised hundreds of thousands of dollars over their lifetimes for our local community. But they were quite unhappy, I think, because it was their understanding that we wouldn't be advertising our fundraising, and then we did. That's what I took from the emails. So I don't know, and I suppose I sit here mildly annoyed. I don't know who from the city has been meeting with this group. I don't know if we have a committee that's meeting with them. I don't know if it's the mayor or the CAO or the treasurer, or who in the city has been meeting with them. But when they say to me by email, we had an agreement that you wouldn't be fundraising, my only question to staff is, what agreement are they talking about? Because I mean, did we as council direct that we start fundraising? Absolutely, because we need money for this pool and we needed it 10 years ago. So the last thing that I want to see is for us to mess this up. And right now we have some wholly committed major community participants who are wholly angry at what has just happened. And we can't mess this up. Like, this is, I mean, we only budgeted 75%. It was with their understanding that we would be looking elsewhere, including at them, and other municipalities as well. So, I mean, they've committed to helping us raise a heck of a lot of money. And I don't want us to mess this up, because this is a sensitive topic. This is on a matter of utmost importance. We're hearing that people want the pool. And the only other thing that I will say, and I don't know how to say it, so I'm just going to start saying it, is a lot of people don't trust to give us money. And it's not because of anything I think that any individual one of us has done. I'm 39 years old as of today. I've never heard of Pembroke having a financial scandal. I don't think our, perhaps the mayor's been here for, I think, 12 years. Councillor Giacono, I think, has been here since. I don't think we've ever had a financial scandal. So I don't think it's anything that we specifically have done, but there's absolutely an air of distrust in government. And while we may not have caused that, and while we may not like that, I think we have to live with it. So, there obviously, anybody who goes on Facebook, which I tried to tell myself not to and then do anyway, there were a lot of people saying, we don't trust giving this money to the city, and that's fine. That's partially why I am more than happy to also have a community group who I understand is partnering with the Pembroke Petawawa Foundation. For those people that aren't aware, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that was donated to our waterfront by an estate, that money didn't come directly to the city of Pembroke. It went through the Pembroke Petawawa Foundation, who then works with the city in terms of what the money will cover. So I don't have a problem if anybody's sitting at home right now saying, I don't trust you, Ian, to give you money. That's fine. There are other avenues like this committee to filter money so that it will go to the pool, and that the committee isn't going to hand it over for us to, go on some councillor road trip or something. So if you don't trust the municipality, that's fine, but that's why it's so important that we're working hand in hand with this committee, and that I don't want to see it messed up. So circling all the way back, does anybody know what agreement is being talked of? Did staff get that email, by the way? Or should I pull up the email? Because it specified an agreement. So that's my question, was there an agreement?
So through the chair, so I'm the only staff member that has met with this group. So in an agreement, maybe it was verbally talked around at a meeting. So there is no agreement written down on a piece of paper. It was discussed at a meeting.
Councillor Fernier?
Okay. Well, that's what I wanted to ask. Sorry, through the chair, that's what I did want to ask was, is there an agreement? Because I got those emails as well. Now, I guess I remember the discussion around the button. And I know that council did say, well, let's see about reactivating that button. But I think also part of that conversation was, let's meet with the committee, the fundraising committee from that community, and work with them. So obviously there's a bit of an oversight or something. The button was activated, we can't change that now, but I think we really need to hear this committee. If they want us to deactivate that button, that's what we need to do, because whatever works for them, they're the ones that have come to us and committed to get behind this project. I don't want to jeopardize anything coming in the way of their success. So I think what we need to do, first of all, is follow their direction when it comes to what website they want people to go to, and let them take this, and make it their success. I think that's, we don't want to be competing. It really scared me. I did, a couple of them were like, what are you doing? And I was the same as Ian. It's like, oh my goodness, is there an agreement? Because we've never really met with this group. So I couldn't really say what was said and what wasn't, and now I know it was basically nothing in writing. But please, I'm going to ask staff maybe to get in touch with Ms. Conway and the group and just ask, do they want us to take that site down? Because I'm supporting whatever they want to do. I'd rather see donors funneled through one and let them, I know they're going to want to see that money and where it's going, so let's let them take control of that place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fournier. Mayor Gerba?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just simply to say that in terms of, as a member of council or the head of council, I've never met with this particular committee, so that, and it's a fair question, so who's meeting, what's going on? I would be remiss if I didn't say that I obviously have ongoing conversations with the CEO, where are things at, what's taking place. One thing that, when this was heating up, if you will, that I was very clear about is that council directed staff, so if someone wants to, but council directed staff put up the button, and to me, the social media oomph was simply to emphasize that there was a button that was sitting there, and we keep calling it a button, but in any event, that there was a site that you could go to donate funds. I know that different members of the public said to me, can we give funds to the city of Pembroke? Yes. Is it tax deductible? Yes. And so there was different people that were getting the win, but I think really none of this was an attempt to slight anyone, and so I want to make sure that, in terms of all of council and staff, this was not an attempt to slight anyone that meant well. I think we had our public meeting. It was very loud and clear, and that there was different individuals that wanted to come to the forefront to generate funds. But as Councillor Keel is saying, we need funds in keeping with that motion to move forward. And I suspect what one of the concerns is that before not too long, we're going to have an indication of, okay, we're ready to rock and roll in terms of the work that needs to be done to the current facility, and we don't have that extra funds. Now, what hasn't been said tonight, as I understand it, is Township of Laurentian Valley is having a council meeting this evening, and so I'm hopeful that we're going to get some indication after our meeting as to what it is that they talked about. And I know staff could comment upon one other township and what they may or may not be willing to do. But this was not any way, shape or form, an effort to slight this other organization. But as the CEO says, I'm on the same wavelength as him, is that I view them as two different things. The city of Pembroke has more or less a passive button there that if someone wants to funnel funds there, and it might be nickels and dimes, I think, as it's been expressed. Whereas I think that, and I hope that the other organization comes together, does whatever it is that it wants to do, gets their feet underneath them. I just don't know when any of that is going to pull together to get the necessary funds that we're actually going to get the work completed this year. That's my hope, is that and I think that's the hope of the community, is that the pool gets reopened sooner rather than not. Well, you need the funds to be able to do the work and then to get it open. But this was not in any way, shape, or form an attempt to slight. I am unaware of any agreements. I didn't meet with anyone, but I was aware that 2 weekends ago that media got wind of it and started doing what media does. And I'm not slighting media. Media does what media does. That's their job. And it's sort of, okay, so the media's got wind of this, the media's moving it forward, and the fundraising group isn't doing, it's doing things, but in terms of the outward looking surface, it's not visible in terms of collecting funds and so forth. And certainly the city of Pembroke wasn't, other than having a button on a page, wasn't really doing anything. So I think it was to try and, as a corporation, okay, so it's the city of Pembroke. Yes, the city of Pembroke is trying to fundraise directly or indirectly for the purpose of this particular facility, because otherwise, when Councillor Keel talks about whether the public distrusts different individuals, we constantly hear from the inspector of different scams and so forth. And so it was to try and show the public that yes, it is a city of Pembroke thing. So if you are getting wind of it or so forth, yes, it's legitimate. Yes, it's the city of Pembroke trying to fundraise, and instead of doing it as a user fee or a tax, this is the city of Pembroke doing it. So I think it was to try and make sure that the public understood that it was a city of Pembroke initiative, or a city of Pembroke consented to situation. So hopefully that clarifies it. By no means was to try and offend anyone or anything like that.
Mayor Jerva. We'll move on to Council Keel. Oh, sorry, Treasurer.
So I just wanted to clarify that us being able to accept donations is the extent of what the city can do in this matter. The city can't do any other fundraising on its behalf. We can't issue lottery licenses. We can't do Catch the Ace or anything like that. It would be up to charitable organizations in the area to kind of take our cause under their wing to do activities like that. Like the municipality cannot fundraise in any way other than simply accepting donations from people. I mean, that's the full extent of what we're allowed to do.
Well, thank you very much for that clarification. I think it's really, really important that the people understand, because I've been monitoring social media as well, and there's a lot of good suggestions out there, but just not in the wheelhouse in terms of the city to actually perform those activities. Let's move on to, Councillor Keel and then Councillor Jackno.
Certainly, I appreciate the mayor's comments, and certainly if it came from me that we were slighting anyone, that certainly wasn't my intention. But I think we accidentally offended some people, and for that reason, I'm assuming this doesn't need a motion, but somebody can let me know. Perhaps the CAO or his designate on this pool thing. Perhaps we could meet with the group in short order. Or maybe we're already meeting with them in short order and just come out with a communication strategy. Because I have no doubt, just as there are people that would say that they would never cut a check to the city of Pembroke, there's probably also people out there, as I think the mayor alluded to, who might not want to give money for a third party to give to the city because they might think that that's one of these scams or whatnot. So I think what we probably should have is a jointly acceptable communication strategy in terms of this fundraising, where people can be aware that you can always donate to the city of Pembroke. And I'm sure if there's anybody out there listening, if you did want to make a bequest for the gardens or picnic tables at the parks, or we can always accept donations. But as the treasurer just alluded to, we can't be doing the 50-50 draws. We can't be doing the Catch the Aces, whereas our partners in this foundation might have more latitude to do. So I think right now I think what we have right now is a communication problem that sort of erupted unintentionally. And I just hope that we can very quickly sort of come together, because we are in it together. It's just a matter of not wanting to offend our partners, I think, is the issue.
Councillor Jackno?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to go wholeheartedly with what Councillor Keel is saying. There was miscommunication, obviously. And I mean, in the height of emotion, often things are said and people assume that certain agreements were made or certain things were said, and they have not been, because sometimes people only hear what they want to hear, etc. I met an individual who wanted to make a donation to the pool, but he said to me, "Why do I have to pay $1.99 to make that donation?" So apparently there's a surcharge when you're making a donation through this setup that we have. Would that be correct, Madam Treasurer?
So through the chair, so there's currently an option on the Canada Helps account, which we can turn off if, so directed, that the donor can pay the processing fee that would be otherwise charged to the municipality for accepting the donation. So even if the city accepted a payment by credit card at City Hall, there are fees underlying the credit card that the city would have to pay to be able to accept that type of payment. So if you donate $20 and use a credit card without having this extra button turned on, the organization doesn't get the $20, it might get $18 because the credit cards charge their fee to process it and pay for all the points you get on all the cards and all of that kind of thing. So our website has the option where you can say yes, and you can pay the extra fees, or if you only want to donate $20, you just don't click that option and you just donate $20. So it's at the discretion of the person donating online.
Well, the individual said he'd sooner take the $1.99 and make it a cash donation along with his $20 to the city, rather than being penalized with a fee. Or if you paid by check, would there be a charge?
No.
No check, so cash and check, no charge. If you're using a card, there is a charge. So anyway, I want to see the partners working together. We have some highly qualified people that have come out of the woodwork, and I don't see why these two things can't meld together. There may be, the perception that we're trying to jump the gun and take their glory on them. I don't know if that was it. I don't think that is really what we were trying to do. We're just trying to initiate the program and move it forward as quickly as possible to let people know that here we are if you want to donate. I think we should be very supportive of that group. And if they were offended, I think they've taken it out of context because that wasn't the intent. I think the intent was everybody working together to raise money to get a pool going. So I think there should be the 3 R's: restore, renew, and rebuild. We shouldn't forget about that. We're not going to raise money initially just for short term. I think it should be long term with those perspectives in mind. Restore, renew, rebuild, rather than just restore and then let's forget about it for another 15 years till the ceiling starts to collapse again. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Deputy Mayor Abdallah?
Thank you. So I was speaking to their spokesperson, Ms. Conway, on the weekend, as some of you might have spoke to also. So I think they've had a meeting or two, and at our budget meeting, we directed to have the button open, but they met after that, and then I know it takes time with the Community Foundation. They've met with Mr. Bradley, the chair of the foundation, and things have to get, paperwork gets done, legal agreements, and I think by March 1st, they'll know more where they're at. So, Mr. Unruh, do you have a meeting scheduled with the fundraising group?
The chair, I do have a meeting this week
Okay.
scheduled with them.
So, in my opinion, I think we need to regroup. A meeting with the CEO, Ms. Conway and her group, and Mr. Bradley of the Community Foundation. Get everybody on the same page, as you say, communication. Personally, I think there should be one portal only. This is a community fundraising event. The Community Foundation is well respected, as is the city. But I think in fundraising, there should be one portal only, one destination that they go to. That's what my opinion. So let's regroup and move forward and have the one portal and raise money for the pool.
Thank you. Councillor Fernie, do you have your hand up? Nope.
Yes, I just want to say I agree with everything that's being said here. I agree with Councillor Abdallah when if they feel only one portal should be open to the public to donate, then I think we should basically let the fundraising committee, make that decision. If they decide they want our site to complement it, as Councillor Jackno said, maybe some individuals would rather donate through the city. At least then they have two options. But I certainly trust staff to discuss this with them and maybe just report back to council anyway, just to let us know what's going on. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. May I speak from the chair? Thank you. I think we just kind of got off to a little bit of a bumpy start in terms of our kickoff journey. And I think, hearing from Ms. Conway and Ms. McCluskey, there's some good things I think that are going to happen in regards to the fundraising for the pool. My only caution is that, that we work closely with the fundraising committee. We cannot do it ourselves. We need everybody's support. We want to make sure that, that we're all on board, that individuals kind of understand the next steps. So I am kind of putting forward as well that I do think that it's important that we have, a chair or the vice chair of Parks and Rec or, even the director of Parks and Recreation also included in that meeting, since it is an initiative in terms of a Parks and Rec initiative. So just to help with, some of the communications and kind of, gathering a path forward so that way there we can, move forward collectively and have some pretty positive outcomes. Any thoughts or concerns in regards to that direction from the committee? Do you have anything to add, Mr. Unruh?
Yeah, again, I just, I guess, would just reiterate, like I was the sole person that was meeting with the community group, and so it was my miscommunications in regards to this issue. yeah, going forward, I can talk to the community group and see in regards to a meeting with other members. I don't want to, speak on their behalf in regards to, I think they wanted to keep the group a little small and concise. And then if I'm hearing council correctly, if the committee or the fundraising community committee would like to see our site shut down, then we would shut it down.
I think that's what I'm hearing, is just to work with the committee to kind of see what the next steps are. We want to mitigate maybe some of the concerns that, they have. We want to play fairly. We want to make sure that people are feeling supported in terms of providing the fundraising supports to the city. So I think maybe just the question to the committee would be just to say, hey, how do we work together? Is there something that we need to do jointly? And if they suggest that we just kind of pause it, then maybe I think that might be an opportunity just to pause it. But I do hear what the mayor is saying. There's some urgency, so maybe if you could bring that back as well, because we have to make those plans in terms of getting, RFPs in place, purchase requests, all those kinds of things in terms of doing the pool replacement, and we need funds to do that. So as long as they understand that there's somewhat of an urgency to kind of have those communications go out so that we can get monies funneled in, it may not be perfect, but I think just if you take that message back, I think it'll be well appreciated.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So I'll just kind of reiterate, I think, like the sentiment around the table, and I guess the read of the group that's put together. They are a very well organized and well established team. They're taking the right steps, and they're making sure along the way that they are doing it correctly, and they want to make sure that it's a solid launch. It will take them some time to gather that momentum, but I think once the momentum is gathered, they will start fundraising extremely quickly, and they will have considerable dollars coming forward, by the summertime, and then continue on from there. So yeah, I'll take those messages back and meet with Ms. Conway and the group. Yeah, and then report back. The other thing I was thinking, I really like the idea of having a joint communications plan, so I'll put them in touch with Heather to make sure that we have that joint communications. And then also maybe if I could ask them for regular updates that I can share, or if they wanted to come to the council meetings to share those updates.
Thank you, Mr. Unron. We really do appreciate, all the work that you're putting into, ensuring that this is a successful fundraising event, so we appreciate that. Any other questions? So can I get a, motion to adjourn? It'll be Councillor Keel and seconded by Deputy Mayor Abdallah. All in favor? This concludes our meeting for the Parks and Rec this evening. Thank you so much.
Is Councillor Plummer going to be zooming in? Oh, who's chairing this meeting? I didn't see it change. I guess, okay, the mayor. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Operations Committee to order for February 20th. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda. So I have the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? And that is carried. So we have two sets of minutes this evening. We have the Operations Committee, December 19th, 2023. I'd entertain a motion for their approval. I have Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? That is carried. Second set of minutes was Finance and Admin for January 4th, 5th, and February 2nd. I have the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? That is carried. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none. We're moving on to new business. Welcome, Mr. Lewis. First up, you have AORS, Application for Skill Development Fund.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution is before Council this evening in support of an application by the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors, AORS, for a skills development fund through the province's Ministry of Labour, Training, Immigration and Skilled Trades. As we all know, Municipal Public Works and Operations Department provide an invaluable service within our communities, and keeping these departments fully staffed and well-trained is important for the health and safety of our communities. Staff shortages and impending retirements are already seen as impacting the public works sector. In a recent AORS survey, 91.5% of respondents across Ontario state they will be hiring entry-level positions in the next 3 to 5 years. 70% of those respondents reported getting less than 5 applications for posted entry-level positions. The top 3 challenges related to staffing is lack of applicants, sufficient qualifications, and competition within the public sector. So to help combat this, AORS has been working with Fanshawe College to develop a municipal operator course with funding to come from the SDF through the province. Attached to this report is a copy of the letter from AORS, and as mentioned, if committee is in support of this endeavour, the resolution will be before Council this evening, and there is no financial implications. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Lewis, any questions or comments? Councillor Keel?
Are we moving the motion?
If you wish,
Yes.
it's on the council, but if you want to make the motion, and then at least we have clear direction when we hit that agenda.
Yes, I would move that we move forward with the motion. I would move that we move forward with the motion. I think, as far as I could tell from this is obviously meant, Director, to be sort of a cross-Ontario push to move forward with this course or whatnot. And I think anything that we can do, especially when the cost isn't borne directly by us, I think anything we can do to group help is a good thing. So I would certainly support this idea.
Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Councillor Purcell, do you want to speak to it? Seeing none, any other questions or comments? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Mr. Lewis, next up, electronic surveillance status report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The following report on the status of the City of Pembroke electronic surveillance program. This is just for everybody's information. This is for the new program that we started last year. It does not include the ongoing program for the municipal or privately owned cameras that are within the PBIA. This is just the new program. So after many hours of research to develop a program for electronic surveillance, and with the combined efforts of the IT department, ORES, the supplier 360 Advanced Security, and the operations department, we have the first installation complete, and it is operational. 2 more installations are scheduled to be completed within the coming weeks. Phase 1 and 2 of the program in 2023 saw the development of a new policy regarding electronic surveillance, the installation of electronic surveillance signage in the applicable areas, installation of fiber optics communications to support the surveillance system, a multi-directional camera installed at the Pembroke Waterfront Park to provide situational awareness, along with 2 single-direction cameras installed at strategic locations within Pembroke's Waterfront Park. With a generous donation from a member of the public, the installation of a single-direction camera in the area of the Timber Raft mural will be completed in the coming weeks. And we have purchased 2 single-directional cameras and 2 multi-directional cameras for the area in and around the Pembroke Street East and McKay Street area. Phase 3 of the program is planned for completion in summer of 2024. The installation of the cameras in the area of the Pembroke Street East and McKay Street intersection, it was delayed due to unforeseen complications with the electrical configuration, but those are being dealt with now, and we hope to see that installation very soon. And the purchase and installation of 2 additional multi-directional cameras in Waterfront Park, that's planned for 2024 as well, to expand the area of visibility down there. Future phasing of the program to be considered when budget allows includes additional intersection area of significance, city facilities, and potentially transition of the PBIA previous camera program, as well as other locations. Just wanted to bring to light to the committee, there has been some contact from business owners through the OPP, stating that they would be interested in volunteering their property for potential future camera installations. This could be beneficial for us, we will need to house IT items and for electrical connections. So that was good information, and we'll definitely be talking to those people as we move forward. A report on the capabilities of the cameras has been presented to the Police Services Board, including key members of the OPP. Financially, approximately $80,000 has been assigned to the electronic surveillance program through the Pembroke, Police Services Board, the private donation, the city's operation department, and the city's treasurer department. That's for phase 1 and 2. Phase 3 of the project has been included in the 2024 budget. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Any questions for Mr. Lewis or comments? Councillor Purcell?
Thank you, Mr. Lewis, for your presentation. I am a big supporter in terms of electronic surveillance. I think it's a deterrent. It also provides individuals with a sense of safety that are utilizing our various different areas, downtown areas, our parks, and those kinds of things. We've seen some vandalism in the past, and I think, you know, these types of opportunities really kind of help us address some of these types of issues that are very costly to our community and the enjoyment in terms of our residents that are enjoying the facilities and our parks and recreation components. So thank you. I think this is awesome. I continue. It's really nice to hear that business owners are volunteering. I think it's really, really important. It's kind of aligned with some of the initiatives that we have with the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan and the Community Watch. So I think this is, very well needed, and I think it's beneficial for the downtown business area. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Frenier?
Yes, thank you. As someone who sits on the Police Services Board, we had a presentation, as Mr. Lewis said, and I was very impressed with the quality of the cameras, especially the multi-directional one that's down at the waterfront. You can follow someone right from the waterfront all the way down Lake Street if you want, going up that way, if you had to, if something did happen. So the accuracy is really mind-blowing. So thank you for all the hard work I know you've been doing on this, Mr. Lewis. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, yes, definitely thank you, Mr. Lewis, for spearheading this vital move forward for the community, for community safety. And from a community watch point of view, having the waterfront, we know we had vandalism down there recently, last year, the year before, and now we have vandalism downtown, but it's going to get less with the cameras, especially the ones over here in the corner. And the fact that we have our own utility, ORES, to provide the fiber optic, it's very important. I want to publicly thank the anonymous donor who contacted me last year to donate the camera at the timber mural, and I want to thank staff for working with the donor on making that happen. Great community support. And so I look forward to decreased vandalism down at the waterfront and downtown also. Thank you.
Mr. Keel?
Three hopefully quick things. Number one, I love seeing this program. I think it was actually the mayor that started spearheading cameras way back when I was on the police services board, which I don't remember what years those were, but I guess somewhere in the mid-teens, late teens. As I said at the police services board, though, and I'll repeat it, I have absolutely zero problems with cameras in our parks and in our municipal facilities or whatnot. I do get a little cautious when we start getting into mixed areas, such as the downtown, when there's residential units and, you know, people's windows and things like that. And I certainly hope that we're being more cautious and careful when we are looking at those sort of things. And if it's I don't know what we see when we're talking about the intersection cameras, but if there's, you know, residential houses on the corners of the intersections, I'm not saying I'm not in favor of it. I'm just saying I do hope that we're taking just maybe a little pause when we start getting into areas with residential units. But I am, generally speaking, all in favor of it. And I want to again thank the person that made the donation for that one camera. Who knows? Maybe some other people will step forward with donations as well to protect specific items that are worth protecting. So generally speaking, I am in favor. I hope to hear from the director that we do treat any residential integrations with, and I'm sure that we do. I have little expectation that that's not the case, but that is where my personal concern lies.
Mr. Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To answer your question, we have significant rules to follow when we locate cameras, as well as the supplier. The supplier helps us do the installation. They monitor where that installation is going to be. They run through the same checks as we do to ensure privacy, all that kind of stuff. So we've got that double layer of protection for the public.
So, Councillor Purcell?
I just wanted to remind everyone about the CamSafe program. I think that's really, really important in terms of, you know, residents, business owners, that they register their security cameras. I know personally I have them registered with CamSafe. I know it's not specifically talking about this initiative, but I think, again, you know, collectively, if we can focus on safety, and the safety not only, you know, in certain areas, but around our, you know, where we live, if you have a camera, you know, please consider in terms of registering with CamSafe. So thank you.
Well said. So that's more or less for information for us to bring us up to date. So having said that, next one, Mr. Lewis, is River Road Catchment Area, request for proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Operations Department recommends the following. Committee approved the award of the engineering design and contract administration services for the River Road Catchment Area to Aegis McIntosh Perry in the amount of $299,769.31 plus HST. Committee approved additional expenditures in the amount of $59,953.86 for a contingency allowance, which is 20% of the design fees, and the total value of the recommendation equal $359,723.17 plus applicable HST. So as we've discussed before, this project involves the full engineering design for the replacement of existing water mains, as well as full road reconstruction and restoration for 6 areas, all adjoining each other. For those that may be watching, I'll do a quick run through of the list so everybody understands what areas we're referring to. They are included in your report. Area number 1 is River Road from Bell Street to McKay Street. Area number 2, Ellis Avenue from River Road to McKay Street. It also includes Rita Crescent from Ellis Avenue to the cul-de-sac. Area number 3 is Laurier Avenue from River Road to McKay. Area number 4 is Deacon Street from River Road to McKay, and that will include the McKay Street intersection. Area number 5 is McKay Street from Deacon to Town Line, and there is a portion on Market. And area number 6 is Bell Street from River Road to McKay Street. The existing water main is beyond its estimated useful life. Many are undersized and they have suffered numerous breaks and leaks. The RFP was publicly advertised, closed on December 21st, 2023. There was 5 proponents. The proposals were reviewed and evaluated using our normal processes and oversight. The recommendation included was derived by using the highest score based on the average of the evaluators, and the proposal evaluation matrix is attached to your report. Based on this review, the evaluation committee believes the proposal from Aegis McIntosh Perry offers the best value for this project. Financial, $225,000 is allocated in the 2024 budget for the commencement of the River Road catchment area design. With contingency allowance and net HST, the total design cost is $366,054.40. As this is a 6-year design project, the remaining required funds will be budgeted in future capital plans, including a yearly CPI index, and that's for all 6 areas. The intent is to complete investigations and preliminary design of all 6 areas, and the detailed design of just area number 1 in 2024 at the cost of $223,973.76. That includes net HST, and therefore it meets the 2024 budget. The above includes the future award of contract administration services to Aegis based on the quoted values submitted in their proposal plus CPI, and will only be awarded when the construction contracts are awarded. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Questions, comments, motions? I have the Deputy Mayor, followed by Councilor Purcell.
A motion to approve Operations Department recommendation to award the contract to Aegis McIntosh Perry for the quoted figures.
Okay, Councilor Purcell?
Just a question. I guess it's just more or less the impact that it would have. I know that McKay Street from Deacon to Town Line Road was just recently paved. So is that, what is the impact in terms of the replacement of the existing water mains, when this does occur? And I'm just wondering in terms of the planning component, they just paved that portion from Deacon Street to Town Line on McKay Street. Will that be impacted? I'm just trying to understand in terms of Area 5. It says McKay Street, Deacon Street to Town Line Road, and a portion of Market Street. And what I'm getting at is that do we have a holistic understanding in terms of the work that we're performing, and then we pave it, and then knowing that in 2 years we're probably going to tear it all up and repave it because we're replacing water mains? Just asking the question.
Mr. Lewis?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we are going to be tearing it up. We're going to be tearing up just enough to get the water main in.
Okay.
It's 6 years. Area 5 is 6 years from now.
Okay.
If we would have left McKay Street for 6 years, we would have been back to gravel. The road was in that rough a shape. I'll go one step further. Area 6 is 7 years away from construction. Bell Street was also just paved. Again, it needed to be paved. We couldn't wait 6 years to allow for this to happen. And that's why in the report, I specifically stated reconstruction and restoration. So in those areas that we've done recent paving, we will literally cut the trench for water main, leave the rest of the asphalt in place, and just pave that trench back up. Similar to what we did on River Road for 2 years. Just in the last couple of years, we only had 1 lane cut. The other lane remained with the asphalt existing.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. These are just some of the questions that we get from concerned residents when they do see these types of work happening, and they just consider, like, is it we're planning on behalf of the city? Meanwhile, you know, we can't let our roads deteriorate to the point where they're not usable. So we recognize that, you know, we're going to do it with minimum disruption to preserve the existing paving that's there and only dig up what's required to replace the water main. So thank you so much for that, and I will second.
By Councillor Purcell, and it's a fair question. Another example is Glenwood. If you look at Glenwood, you'll see that the, not Glenwood, is it Elizabeth Street? Elizabeth or Cecilia? It's one of those that you can clearly see where the line is, so only enough was ripped up to make it happen. Elizabeth. So then I have Councillor Jacquin and then Councillor Lafreniere.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Lewis, we had an individual here tonight, you know, who was concerned about how roads are torn up, how it affected business downtown. And I want to ask Mr. Lewis a question. In all fairness, I think sometimes, you know, the individuals that come and make the presentation don't understand the logistics from the other side. Now, would we have had restrictions as to repairing those roads as far as grants, et cetera? If the road is not fixed by a certain time, are we not obligated to have a performa done on those particular roads, or we lose the grant money for those roads? Is that what happens? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Through you, Mr. Chair, not this particular program. This is not a grant-funded program, but that often happens. And last year, there was a significant amount of grant money that we used for road reconstruction. And if we didn't get the work done, we would have lost grant funding, a significant amount of grant funding.
So would that have applied to any of the downtown work that was done on Nelson Street? Because everything seemed to be dug up, as the individual said, it affected his business. And we know COVID existed and there was a lot of other things, but would have any of those, and I hate to put you on the spot, perhaps you don't know, but I'd just like to know for my own clarification, if we had not fixed a particular roadway, as the individual said, you know, it ended up being December 10th and it only gave them so many days for the businesses to have prime shopping days, would we have been penalized by not completing that work?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Pembroke Street West project was significantly funded. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, I believe it was 87% funded by the provincial government and the federal government. So we paid 13% or 13 cents on the dollar for that work that was completed. It was a 4-year project. Planning started 5 years prior to the work being finished. And as council is aware, and it was brought up this evening, sometimes stuff happens, and when we open up the ground, we find things that we didn't anticipate. It changed phasing on that particular project. It did complicate a number of initiatives, including the traffic signals that were done at Christie and Pembroke Street, caused us some issues there that definitely extended the length of the project. But you are correct. That's one of the projects last year that, had we not got completed within that year, we would have lost that funding. And future grant applications on projects that you didn't complete don't get looked very favorably when you go back looking for further grants.
Thank you, and I know in future, I mean, you know, we look, operations looks at all the options. I mean, we don't dig up all the roads just to make people miserable. I think it's got to be done based on grant application, funding, et cetera. So those are part of the things that come into the basic overall initiative. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lafreniere.
Yes, through the chair to Mr. Lewis. During the election time, when I was campaigning along all of those streets, Ellis, Laurier, and all along, I did bring it back to you, the concerns about the accessible sidewalks. They're pretty bad all along River Road there. And you had said that once we start working on those areas, we would look at, you know, making sure that the sidewalks flow into each other. Is that going to be done? Is that part of this plan? Because I know that every one of those are the intersections that were really horrible if you had to try to maneuver around them in any kind of wheelchair or anything like that. So is that part of the plan to repair those?
Through you, Mr. Chair, if we have to enter into the intersection to do the water main work, we will be looking at those sidewalks. But with that being said, we're looking at other sidewalks on a regular basis and increasing our AODA compliance. So if we don't get it in these projects, it won't be long. We'll be looking at them anyway. For those particular locations, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm thinking if you're doing the reconstruction, I mean, you're there anyway, and I would appreciate if you did have another look or make a note of it.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you very.
it will be on the list for our consultant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. So call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Mr. Lewis, next one up is amendment to OHSA employer defined.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I do have another resolution for committee's consideration, and if accepted, the resolution will be before council this evening. The resolution is in support of the City of Greater Sudbury's request for the province of Ontario to amend the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the definition of employer, to exclude owners that have contracted with a constructor. Thanks, Sean. With a constructor for a project. Copy of Greater Sudbury's resolution number. I didn't have the number down, but there is the resolution that's attached to the report for committee's review. Further to previous discussions on what has been termed the Sudbury decision related to charges under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, staff is presenting a resolution of council calling for the province to amend the act, specifically the definition of employer as it relates to a contracted constructor for a construction project. Specifically, the consequences of the decision in the Sudbury case is that all municipalities in Ontario, including the City of Pembroke, are subject to being charged and convicted as an employer for offences for which they have no control and have contracted with an entity to assume oversight and authority over the work as the constructor. Further, the potential of an owner being charged in circumstances as stated in the Sudbury decision disregards and renders meaningless the owner-constructor provisions contained in the Act and presents an unacceptable level of increased risk and confusion for owners and contractors. The City of Pembroke and the staff of the city believe that the safety of workers is paramount. However, that safety on construction projects is not increased by placing liability on parties that do not have control or responsibility for the conduct of work on those job sites. So having discussed the Sudbury decision and the risks associated, the Operations Department will take all necessary steps to reduce and mitigate the risks. However, with the confusion the interpretation of the Act has taken, it is recommended that we support the resolution and the amendment to the Act for clarification. Mr. Chair, there is no financial implications related to this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis, and I know that you had raised this during the course of budget as well. So yes, it's coming forward further tonight, but perhaps there's a motion so that we can move by Councillor Purcell, second by Councillor Keel. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next, Mr. Lewis, 2023 WPP Annual Water Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My final report for this evening. The Operations Department recommends that the committee accept the City of Pembroke Drinking Water System 2023 Annual Water Reports and that the Mayor and the Chair of Operations sign and approve as indicated. The enabling resolution will come before Council later this evening for approval, should the committee agree. This report encompasses 3 different annual reports required for the City of Pembroke drinking water system. Summary report as per Schedule 22, Ontario Regulation 170.03. Section 11, annual report as per Section 11 of the same regulation. And the summary of raw water taking and transfer submitted to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks in February of 2023 under Ontario Regulation 387.04. The attached report is completed in accordance with the Safe Drinking Water Act. Schedule 22 requires a summary report to be prepared no later than February 28th of each year for the preceding calendar year. The summary report is to be provided to members of the municipal council and endorsed by a resolution of council. Also included in the report is section 11. The Pembroke drinking water system received an inspection rating record of 100% compliance for the 2023-2024 inspection period, thanks to the great work of our staff at the water purification plant. A copy of the annual report will be made available to all drinking water systems owners that are connected to the City of Pembroke drinking water system and to whom the city provides all of its drinking water, and that being the Township of Laurentian Valley. As part of the requirements of the water taking and and transfer regulation, it is required that all raw water daily flow volumes are submitted electronically for review by the ministry, and a copy of that raw data is contained within the report. Section 12 of OREG 17003 requires that these reports be made available for inspection by any member of the public during normal business hours without charge. The report will be made available for inspection at City Hall, on the city's website, and at the water purification plant. And for information purposes, the reports on the city website are fully accessible. There are no financial implications associated with this report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Another impressive report out of 100% compliance. Councillor Keel?
I'd move that we move forward with the report later at council. My only question, somewhere in this report, I've been trying to find it, but it's a lengthy report. There was something that we we didn't meet expectations, but then we resampled, and I think that it was found fine. Could you just explain that process? How when we find things, we then rather quickly attend to them?
As I've mentioned before, water and wastewater is highly regulated. Any deviations at all, we report, and we test and retest and test some more and retest some more continually and constantly to ensure safe drinking water for all our residents. It does happen on occasion where if an operator grabs the sample bottle and touches it the wrong way and takes a sample, you could get a bad sample. If we get a bad sample, we immediately resample. We check our procedures, we check our processes, we resample, test again, hence why on occasion you may get a glitch, but that was just a glitch. Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor? Seconded. Councillor Giacono?
Just a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Lewis. You know, with the wild rainstorms and the inclement weather we've been having more and more of, what are our long-range plans to manage these super event rainstorms? Are there any? I mean, obviously, you know, in your long-range plans, whether it's keeping the catch basins, making them wider to accept more water. I don't know what this, you know, we see backups and they can't handle the flow. So are there any long-range plans to alleviate those issues?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I will be back before council and committee likely several times within the next 9 months related to stormwater and stormwater management. So we are long-term, way down the road. I'm going to say probably about 20 years down the road with our multi-year capital construction forecast, with the rate studies we're doing, with other studies that we've done. We just completed a study on what I call the choke points. So we've got stormwater that starts at the top of the hill and it's got to make it down to the Ottawa River, but some of the older areas within the city are down here towards the river, so the storm sewers are smaller, as they weren't built to take the upper end of the city that expanded later on. Those are our choke points. We've done studies on those choke points to identify works that need to be done. We've got some discussions that we're going to have on inflow and infiltration into the sanitary system, and how do we get that stormwater out of the sanitary system into stormwater systems where it should go, and what's the repercussions if we don't do that. So there are a number of of initiatives that I'm working on as far as stormwater is concerned, including some very interesting natural stormwater management type stuff that's coming to the forefront that I'm working on as well.
Thank you.
Serious conversations about our situation and our plant's ability to handle what people are doing. Call the question. Those in favor of this motion? That is carried. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Lewis, for all of your reports this evening. Welcome, Ms. Lochte. This brings us to the annual property rental fee 237 Victoria Street, which is the last item for the Operations Committee this evening.
Thank you. So this report is presented for information at the February 2nd special meeting of the Finance and Admin Committee. Development of a lease agreement and charges with the Pembroke Public Library was discussed, so this report is presented for further information. So the city currently owns 237 Victoria Street, where the Pembroke Public Library operates. And historically, we have not charged rent to the library for this service. So to fairly compensate the city and reflect the true cost to operate the Pembroke Public Library, the committee approved in principle the development of a lease agreement and charging for the service effective January 1st, 2024. So to support this annual lease amount, city staff engaged Rivington commercial appraisers in the fall of 2023 to calculate the rental value of the property. So their proposed rate considers the property's attributes, a market rate analysis, and the overall capitalization rate of the property itself. So based on a gross building area of 12,812 square feet, including the basement, the property rental value was appraised at $9 per square foot, or $115,308 per year. So we have included additional lease income as a revenue offset by a contribution to the library as a partner contribution of the same amount, so essentially in and out. And the addition of this new charge, I understand, would be discussed with the Township of Laurentian Valley's negotiations regarding their share of costs. So from the city's perspective as a bricks and mortar service, the library building forms part of the service and should not be included from the overall cost of the library. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. So for information purposes only, Councillor Purcell.
I'd just like to thank the treasurer for her support. I know that I've been working closely with Deputy Mayor Abdallah in regards to the negotiations with Laurentian Valley. They're currently underway, and this is a topic of discussion for our contract renewals. So again, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it.
I have the Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Keel.
So thank you, Ms. Lochte. Like Councillor Purcell said, for all you and your staff's work on this. And I know the mayor and I talked about this last term when we were on the library board, just to represent the true cost of running a city facility. Can you, you know the figure probably better than I do, but the report that came out last year or a couple of years ago for asset management, it said the library needs over $2 million worth of work in the next years ahead to keep it in good condition?
Well, so through the chair, so don't quote me, but I think over the next, I'm going to say 5 years, it was 1.5 million was
Yeah.
identified. So there is a number of items that require work at that facility, yes.
Right. And that's one reason we came up with this, is because to represent the true cost of running a facility, you know, arenas and City Hall and the library, which is a shared partnership. We provide a service to Laurentian Valley, so it's only natural that we would come up with this this rental agreement. Thank you.
Councillor Keel.
Your Worship, in light of comments that came up at our last meeting about tasking staff with things, I wonder if I could. I wonder if it would be appropriate at this time if I could ask this committee's direction to the treasurer, if not necessarily anytime soon, but if she would be able to put together a list of city-owned properties that we do lease out to third parties or related parties, and whether they're at, whether they're leased out at, I guess, commercial rent or less than commercial rent or leased for free. I'm wondering if we could get a list of those when time suits.
So I'm seeing some head nodding, Councillor Frenier, any head nodding? I don't know, but anyways, I think yes. Okay. So generally speaking, there's the head nodding in terms
And
of
if that
direction.
direction was received,
So that one was for information purposes only. Thank you very much, Ms. Lochte. Motion to adjourn. I have the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor, we are adjourned operations. Evening, everyone. I'd like to call this council meeting to order for Tuesday, February 20th. I'd ask that everyone please take a moment, please stand for an opening prayer and/or reflection. Before opening this meeting of council, I would ask those who wish, each in your own way, silently join in a prayer of guidance over these proceedings. Thank you. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interests this evening in respect to this council meeting? Seeing none. We have a number of different minutes to go through this evening. First is the approval of meeting minutes for the regular meeting of council February 6, 2024. I'd entertain a motion for their approval. I have the Councillor Keel, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Those in favor? That is carried. Next is adoption of minutes from various committees. First is Parks and Recreation Committee, January 16, 2024. I have Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? That is carried. Next is Operations Committee, December 19th, 2023. I have Councillor Keel, Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? That is carried. Next, I have Finance and Administration Committee budget meetings, January 4th, 5th, and February 2nd. I have the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Those in favor? That is carried. Then we're receiving minutes from local boards. Only one this evening. Pembroke Heritage Murals Committee, February 7th, 2024. I'd entertain a motion. I have Councillor Lafreniere, seconded by Councillor Jacquino. Those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Brings us to committee reports. Madam Treasurer, 2024 budget presentation.
Thank you and good evening again. So tonight's council agenda includes bylaws related to the adoption of Budget 2024, including the levy, the waste collection rates, the PBIA budget, our tax ratios, and our Ottawa Valley waste recovery rate. So just as we already had our public meeting mid-January, I will go through the presentation fairly quickly, but I do have tonight a summary of the final version of the budget, and this will be posted on our website either Friday or Monday because it's currently being remediated for accessibility. So. I got it. Yeah, okay. So as mentioned before, we began preparation of the 2024 budget back in August. They were reviewed from October through to December. We deliberated them on January 4th and 5th, held a public budget meeting on January 15th, and then a final deliberation meeting on February 2nd. And tonight we are formally adopting the 2024 budget. So often I'm asked about, the city's operating environment, and I typically present some information on our regulatory environment just because municipalities are limited in their operations by a variety of different laws and regulations set by the provincial government. So this slide includes a summary of some of the key legislative requirements the city must adhere to in the fire, roads, parks, planning, building, and bylaw departments. For reference, overall, the 2024 budget includes an operating budget of $37.9 million, a $31.6 million capital budget. The city will raise $25 million through property taxes, which represents a 7.94% levy increase after growth and a 7.9% tax rate increase. There are no changes in 2024 to garbage fees or the Ottawa Valley waste recovery fee. And again, no changes to our tax ratios. And ratios set the tax rates between the different property classes. And as we saw on February 2nd, the PBIA will have a 3.83% increase on their rate on a budget of $206,423. So the levy for this year is quite high in comparison to previous years, breaking that down between the areas of the budget that the city controls versus area of the budget the city does not control. We can see that our shared services, which the city does not control the setting of that particular budget, represents a levy increase of 4.77%. or roughly $1.1 million, and a 3.17% increase related to city-delivered services. So this includes roads, fire protection, and parks and recreation services. In terms of our water and sewer rates, we did set these rates as part of the 2023 budget. Under Ontario's Safe Drinking Water Act, the city is required to prepare financial plans for its water systems to ensure that sufficient revenue is generated to provide safe drinking water to our community. Every 5 years, we conduct a study and a financial plan to determine these rates, which was completed in 2019 and 20 and goes to the end of this year. So we will be doing another study in 2024 for the 25 to 29 year period. And again, per the agreement reached between the city and the Township of Laurentian Valley, we have to base our rate increases on the recommendations of this study. So overall for water is going to have a $5.2 million operating budget, a $6.5 million capital budget, and as in previous years, rates will increase by 5.7% for flat water and 9.8% increase for metered water. For our sanitary sewer system, they have an operating budget of $7.3 million, a capital budget of $11.5 million, and again, as in previous years, a 5.2% increase to flat sewer rates and a 6.9% increase to metered sewer rates. So this next slide shows the assessment and the average impact by property class. So overall will increase by $24.68 a month. The multi-residential bill will increase by $162.85 a month. Commercial, $53.65 a month, and industrial, $62.59 per month. So some of the feedback I receive is that this assessment that taxes are based on do not reflect today's market, and that is the case. However, property taxes are based on this 2016 valuation, and we're still waiting to hear when this valuation will be updated to current market. So this might be in the next tax year or the year after. So overall, if we break down the impact on the residential class, property taxes are driving an increase of $18.31 a month. Water bill, $2.59 a month increase, and the sewer bill is a $3.78 a month increase. The next few slides show the city's operating budget by department. If we look at our sources of revenue, we can see that the bulk of our revenue does come from taxation. We do receive about 16.4% in federal and provincial grants from higher levels of government. We are receiving investment and interest income this year of 4.5%, which is quite high, but is due to market conditions right now with high interest rates being earned. Garbage and recycling rates represent 4.1% of our revenue. We do receive about 3.6% of our revenue from fees and user charges. Recreation user fees and charges represent 3.2% and reserves 1.6%. We do receive grants every year from the province and the federal government. So overall this year, we received $62,000 more in our Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. $39,530 more is estimated to be received from our court security grant, which helps offset the cost of our OPP services. The federal gas tax, now called Canada Community Building Fund, is showing a decrease of $15,612 from what we received last year. We are expecting transit to remain unchanged at $106,000, and our Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund went up by $222,000 in 2024. So in addition to grants we receive based on a formula every year, we do apply for and sometimes receive application-based grants. So we are expecting and actually have recently received the paperwork for ISIP Transit Grant for a new passenger van for the handy bus of $117,820. We did receive a grant from the Enabling Accessibility Fund from the federal government for a Kinsman Pool accessibility lift to the amount of $26,682. And we have applied for, but have not heard back from, a grant for a fire department generator to the Emergency Preparedness Grant Program for $50,000. Overall, on this next slide, we can see a breakdown of our operating expenditures by department. And as we can see, county and shared services represent the highest item of spending at 14.3% of our overall operating expenditures, followed by financing of capital projects of 14.2%. On the next slide, we do have a breakdown of our Renfrew County shared services. So again, the city does not set or control a portion of its budget, and the services provided by the County of Renfrew break down as per this slide. And as we can see, overall, the cost of county services have increased by almost $1 million as compared to our 2023 budget. So in terms of the drivers of this increase, again, when we add the county, the health unit, and the OPP together, these services are costing the city $1.1 million more this year as compared to our 2023 budget. We have ratified our collective agreements, and along with our benefit price increases, that represents an increase of $650,000 roughly. We have changed some staffing at the city, which is increasing our costs by roughly $211,000. We are providing funding for the warming shelter to, the balance of this winter, and are making a contribution to a social service reserve contribution for a total of $90,000 in this year's budget. We have had to increase our contributions to our fleet reserve, which funds the replacement of our fleet and equipment across the city and all departments to the tune of $57,000. We are increasing our funding for storm sewer over the next several years, so that has had an impact on this year's budget of $51,000. We have increased our contribution to the library of $23,000. We have closed the pool for repair, which is a savings, but only for the time period while it's being repaired. So this is going to represent a savings of roughly $40,000. We are seeing a bump in our interest income of $164,000. We are renting our OPP building and have come to an agreement with the province related to the provincial share of work that's being done out of that building, with an expected rent of $87,000 this year. Again, we have received a bump in our provincial funding for our OMPF program, and that comprises essentially the main drivers behind our $1.8 million levy increase this year. In terms of capital projects, we plan to spend $4 million on buildings, facilities, and parks, $8.2 million on roads, bridges, and stormwater, $1.4 on equipment and fleet, $11.5 million in sanitary sewer projects, and $6.5 million in water projects. On this next slide, the funding for these projects is broken down between money carrying forward from one year to the next, $6.9 million in reserves and reserve funds, $800,000 of cost sharing and unfinanced, dependent on future revenues, $4.5 million in grants, $6 million in debt for the Town Line Force Main project, $2.2 million in property taxes, and $2.6 million of revenue generated from our water and sewer rates that go towards capital projects. And this next slide breaks that down even further between the different classes of projects and the different sources of funding. That's okay. So overall, in terms of our 5-year capital spend, we are down a little bit compared to 2023. However, the Town Line Force Main and a number of water and sewer projects were definitely driving up that total as compared to 2024. As was discussed during deliberations, construction has received a very significant spike in costs, which have not kept pace with the city's contribution to projects. So inflation related to construction is estimated at 37.1% increase from 2021 to 2024, but our contribution has only increased by 8.6% over this time. So while we have increased our contribution, we still lag behind inflation by about $570,000, or a 2.5% levy increase, which was not included in the 2024 budget. And over and above this inflationary pressure, we do face significant funding shortfalls for buildings, which will have to be addressed in the years ahead. So this will continue to cause a pressure on the 2025 and future budgets. Based on feedback received as part of our public budget meeting held on January 15th, repairs to the Kinsman Pool have been included in the 2024 budget with a stipulation that 25% of repairs be covered by other municipalities and/or public donations. So I have heard word unofficially that Laurentian Valley has approved funding of 30% of net costs or net costs up to $420,000. So that's excellent news, and that definitely meets the criteria to be able to move forward with the project. So we have issued a tender for the repair. It does close, I believe, beginning of March, or end of February, beginning of March. So I do expect a report back for decision after that tender has closed. And we have launched a regional pool fundraising campaign, and we're continuing to work with our partners. So in terms of our reserves, reserve funds, and debt, this next slide shows the different debt the city currently holds. Over the past few years, we have had some be fully paid, which includes our LED conversion, our waste disposal, loan related to the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center, but we are expecting to add to our debt in 2025 related to our Town Line Force Main project that's currently underway. So every year the city is required to report on our development charge reserve balance and the use and plan for these funds. So as we can see on this slide, at the beginning of 2024, the city had $323,000 in our reserve fund for development charges collected, broken down between the different categories. On the next slide, we show the activity between the fees collected, the interest earned, and the money spent from these different categories on capital projects in the city. So in 2023, we did spend development charge funding on the Nelson Street construction project phase 2 and the Town Line Force Main. In 2024, we expect to use funding for Makeda River Road design and the water tower design. So as per the More Homes Built Faster Act, beginning in 2023, the municipality has to spend or allocate at least 60% of money that are in our development charge reserve fund at the beginning of the year for the categories of water, wastewater, and roads. So if we look ahead, we are committing or allocating development charges to the following projects, which would, meet the criteria of this 60%. So we have pre-committed to purchase a roads single axle truck. So that's part of the funding that's unfinanced in 2024, as we only expect to receive delivery of the truck in 2025. And that's for $270,000. We are expecting to go ahead with Nelson Street Phase 3. So we will be able to draw down funding from development charges of roughly $78,000. We are currently in the design phase of Supple's Landing lift station. So we'll expect to spend roughly $1 million of development charges in the future for that project, and are conducting some water studies for a cost of $373,000. So the next few slides show essentially the different fees that are going to be charged in 2024. So again, our waste management charges remained unchanged in 2024. Our water rates are on this next slide. So we can see our 5.7% and 9.8% increases for flat water service and metered water service here. The same thing on the following slide for our sewer rates. This is our sewer rates for 2024 as compared to 2023. And again, this next slide has the average impact on our flat rates. So the average residential taxpayer can expect to pay $6.37 more per month for water and sewer in 2024. The next slide has the impact on metered customers with a breakdown there of how our monthly increases would impact a multi-res, commercial, and industrial property. The following slide shows a breakdown of a tax bill, municipal education, garbage collection, Ottawa Valley waste recovery fees, water and sewer fees, by, again, the different average property for residential, multi-residential, commercial, and industrial, which is presented for information. And finally, if we break down the 2024 budget by service category, every $1 of municipal taxes is estimated to go towards the following services. So county and shared services is 21 cents, policing 18 cents, roads 17 cents, fire 15 cents, parks and rec 13 cents. Capital project financing is 9% of every $1 collected. And then finally, we have our smaller categories of general government, planning, and economic development. So that concludes the overview of Budget 2024. As I mentioned, this presentation will be on the city's website either Friday afternoon or Monday morning, depending on when we get it back from our remediator. Thank you.
Comments from committee members? So, Chair of Finance, sure.
As Chair of Finance, I want to thank Ms. Lochstein and her staff, and the CEO and his staff, all city staff involved with this, department managers and everyone. This is an enormous task every year to come up with the budget, to estimate what it's going to cost. This is a very tough budget. This is a very tough budget. It's a necessary budget. We had 2.5 or around there for the last few years, and we're lagging in capital. But the shared services are up 4.77. Shared services are up close to $1 million, over $1 million, OPP in the county of Renfrew. 4.77% of our funding goes towards shared services. This is where the province can step up with the resolution that we passed at the last meeting to take some of these services back and stop downloading and loading them on the county and the municipality. If this happened, then we wouldn't get these. We wouldn't have these increases. We negotiated a new QP agreement, new firefighter agreement, and then all the costs went up with inflation. We're doing 30-some million in capital through the city. If we don't do the work now, it's more expensive the following year. And there's always the liability. If we don't fix the sidewalks and the roads, there's a liability. So to keep those services going, we have to come up with a budget. And then we also have the pool that we have to address, fixing the pool also. So I want to thank staff for preparing the budget, and it's no one wants a tax increase, no one wants a water increase. Excuse me, but these are the costs we have to live with in today's age, and we know people on fixed incomes are struggling, and we do not take this lightly. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Giacono?
Thank you, Worship. As a sitting member at the County of Renfrew on housing, social housing, and the other committee that I chair, it just eluded me now. But anyway, social services, sorry. It's been a long evening. There's been a substantial increase as you look in land ambulance. But in all fairness, these increases help the populace, not only of the County of Renfrew, but also our community. We look at the demographic today within our city. We have a lot of older people living here. I mean, years ago, if you heard an ambulance siren, once in a while it was an oddity, but now you hear them all the time. But that's because we have an aging demographic. People are getting sick. They're calling upon this particular service, so costs increase. So we all bear that for the benefit of all our people. As well, the paramedic service, now will be sort of a 24/7, where it was not before, which will benefit many, many individuals within our area. We all know that there's a 10-year waiting period if you want to get into a social housing environment, 10 years. So that reflects on the provincial government, which downloaded us with all these costs. We're all responsible for them now. And the costs, it's got to come from somewhere. You got to pay from somewhere. So who's somewhere? That's us in the county of Renfrew working together. Until those costs can be downloaded back to the province in some essence, or in a in a percentile, we're going to continue to bear the brunt of these increases, whether we like it or not. We have no choice. So the message should go back to our elected, provincially and federally, that as a municipality, we cannot continue to bear the cost. And Pembroke is a small community, it's not the only one. You look at the city of Toronto, I don't know how people exist there. With the amount of dollar increases that they're seeing, it's a large urban center, and everybody says, well, there's more people to pay more cost, but a price of bread is still the price of a loaf of bread. Everything's going up. On a positive note, we have had the 10-unit building built on Douglas Street. There's been one unit that's been demolished as well, and now there's going to be a duplex-type unit, which will suffice for another additional family to live. So I think Pembroke is trying to do the best it can, and county-wise, they're trying to do the best they can. So just that little overview, Your Worship, members of council. And also, I just want to announce that it's been some time now, but Laura Lepine, who was with Social Services, has retired. Laura was a wonderful individual, worked very hard on behalf of the residents of the county and also the city of Pembroke, and she's been replaced by a most capable person, Andrea Patrick. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jacquinot. Does anyone else wish to speak to this particular report? Seeing none, I just want to echo what the Deputy Mayor said and thank staff. I know that Madam Treasurer has always done an excellent job of thanking her staff, because it's not just one particular person. No disrespect on that comment, but there's a whole tier of different individuals in the Treasury Department trying to make this happen. And I know that whenever I come and go out of City Hall, there's evenings when leading up to budget and during the course of budget that obviously Madam Treasurer was here with other support, supporting her in terms of attempting to and working on the budget. I can assure the public that we will continue to partner with other levels of government, and we will continue to seek out grants and to offset the burden upon the taxpayers. And you can see that from this budget that we do obtain grants. We do receive things like the funding, which is noted that the funding was increased. I know that whenever the CEO and I attend different meetings with ministers and so forth, that we constantly talk about predictable funding. So it's nice that it's increased. I'm not knocking that because there are some municipalities that have seen a decrease, but it's the predictability part that is helpful when Madam Treasurer is trying to put together a budget, and is it going up, is it going down, is it holding, what's going to take place, because it's having to look at that money in, money out situation. As I've always described in terms of our city employee complement, we are lean. We've gone through with Mayor LeMay a number of different analysis and come across that we are lean, and we continue to operate lean with no fat in this particular budget nor any previous budget. I think it's important, and I continue to say this, that people in the public need to compare apples and apples, and I'm saying that because we are a single-tier municipality similar to Brockville. We're surrounded by lower-tier municipalities, and when I read in the paper, so I know from sitting here, when I read the paper and I see that, for instance, Laurentian Valley, 7.8%, what's being left out is, by the way, there's a county element that they are facing as well, of 5.47 on top of that amount. it's not apples and apples. Meanwhile, when you look at our budget, the dollar amount is the dollar amount, and yes, we break out how much the county is, but it's reflected, that is the number. There is no, attempts to hide it, or there's no fogginess to it. What our budget is the budget, and I just think that people need to compare it, because it was just even on the weekend, talking to some friends, and they're, oh, we're in a different municipality, and you guys are getting hit hard, and it's like, you need to sit down and understand it. And I realize most people, maybe they think municipal politics is boring or what have you, but they're not understanding what it is that their tax increase results in. And so it's trying to explain different things to them and what it means to them, explaining to other individuals in other municipalities about our new water sewer agreement and how things have changed. As has been said by different members of council, as a municipality, we work with the county, we work with others to attempt to strike a balance, to try and get works done, and at the same time, trying to be mindful of the taxpayers' ability to pay. As Mayor LeMay always said, we need to grow the tax base, and I think you're going to see there is growth this particular year, but I think you're going to see further growth in future years, not only infill, but you're going to see subdivisions prospering, and so as a result, that helps us at the end of the day. Councillor Plummer isn't here this evening, so from an operations perspective, just to point out that there is significant capital works being completed in this budget. I know that some people complain, as we've heard earlier, in terms of too much capital works being completed, but the capital work needs to get done, because it's just like your own home. If you're not, taking precautions to replace roofs when they need to be replaced and so forth, then it just costs even more further down the road. There's increase in terms of monies in respect to sidewalk repairs and other works. And just simply to say thank you to all members of council. It was a tough budget, but we pulled together, and together with staff, we came forward with a budget that will see us through 2024. And for that, I appreciate all of the hard work of the different council members pulling together and getting through it. And the new added tweak of having the public meeting earlier on was interesting, and it got valuable input. So I appreciate that new way of approaching the budget process. And again, thank you to staff as well for all of your hard work in terms of putting this together. And like, this is the final, but it's so much work getting us to that particular time. So I just want to thank all of you for all of your hard work. So with that, and there will be a number of bylaws coming forward this evening in terms of implementing the budget. So that brings us to the next one, which was the 2023 council remuneration. Madam Treasurer, did you want to speak to this particular one?
So this report is presented for information in accordance with Section 284 of the Ontario's Municipal Act. The city is required to publish annually the payments made to both council and local boards for out-of-pocket expenses and honorariums incurred in respect to his or her capacity as a member. And this report is enclosed accordingly.
Thank you. And yes, no different than any other year, bringing it forward in compliance with the Municipal Act. So unless there's some questions on this particular one, it's as per normal. Okay. So that brings us to the bylaw section for this evening, a number of them to process through. The first one is 2024-05, Budget 2024. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ed Jacquinot, that bylaw 2024-05, being a bylaw to adopt the estimates for the sums required during the year 2024 for the general and special purposes of the City of Pembroke, be adopted and passed, and further, that said the bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Jacquinot, that bylaw 2024-05, being a bylaw to adopt the estimates for sums required during the 2024 year for the general and special purposes of the City of Pembroke be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Deputy Mayor, did you wish to speak to it?
Yes, Your Worship. We just spoke about this. Ms. Lashley gave her a presentation for the budget. This is accepting This is a bylaw to adopt the estimates for the sums required during the 2024 year for general, capital, and special purposes of the City of Pembroke. This bylaw is a formal adoption of the approved budget totaling $37,855,960.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? And that is carried. Next is 2024-06 Waste Collection Disposal. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of council, moved by myself, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, Brian Abdallah, that bylaw 2024-06, being a bylaw to impose an annual fee to be charged to the owners, householders, or occupants of any building in the City of Pembroke to defray the expenses of the collection and disposal of waste be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with seal of the corporation. Waiting your signature, Your Worship.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Giacono, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that bylaw 2024-06, being a bylaw to impose an annual fee to be charged to the owners, householders, or occupants of any building in the City of Pembroke to defray the expenses of collection and disposal of waste, be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship. This was discussed at length during the budget, and the annual fee established for 2024 will be $158 per unit, and the fee remains unchanged from last year. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor of this? That's carried. Next, Councillor Keel, 2024-08, the 2024 PBIA budget rates.
Sorry, just wondering what happened to 07. Bylaw number 2024-08, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purcell, that bylaw 2024-08 being a bylaw to adopt the estimates for the sums required during the year 2024 for the Pembroke Business Improvement Area and to establish rates to be levied for same be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by Councillor Purcell, that bylaw 2024-08 being a bylaw to adopt the estimates for the sums required during the year 2024 for the Pembroke Business Improvement Area and to establish rates to be levied for same be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Keel.
As was just said, this is a bylaw to adopt the budget estimates for the PBIA. I understand the total budget is $206,423 with a rate increase of only 3.83% this year due to assessment changes in the downtown core. And I believe, I think when this was presented to council, I don't believe we made any changes to it. I think it was the budget presented by the PBIA, Your Worship.
Yes. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next one is 2024-09, 2024 tax ratios. Councillor Keel.
Moved by myself, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. That bylaw 2024-09 being a bylaw to establish tax ratios for prescribed property classes for the year 2024 be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keel, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that bylaw 2024-09 being a bylaw to establish tax ratios for prescribed property classes for the year 2024 be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Section 308 of the Municipal Act requires a bylaw to set tax ratios for municipal purposes for 2024. This bylaw establishes a tax ratio for each property class in relation to the residential class, which is used in the calculation of property taxes for the year. The ratios are the same as 2023 for all classes of properties.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next one, 2024-10, Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Centre Waste Management. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Keel on the bylaw 2024-10 being a bylaw to impose an annual fee to charge the owners, households, and occupants of any building in the City of Pembroke to defray the expenses of waste management facilities and services be adopted and passed, and further that that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
Moved by Councillor Purcell, seconded by Councillor Keel, that bylaw 2024-10 being a bylaw to impose an annual fee to be charged to the owners, householders, or occupants of any building in the city of Pembroke to defray the expenses of waste management facilities and services be adopted and passed, and further that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Mayor. This is to impose an annual fee to be charged to owners of buildings within the city of Pembroke to defray the cost of waste management facility and services. The annual fee established for residential and multi-residential properties with assessment values below $300,000 is $65, and properties with assessment values exceeding $300,000 range from $130 to $325. The annual fee established for commercial, industrial, and institutional property with assessment values below $300,000 is $130, and properties with assessment values exceeding $300,000 range from $260 to $650. These fees remain unchanged from last year. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? And that's carried. Next one is 2024-12 CUPE agreement. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Abdallah, that bylaw 2024-12, being a bylaw to provide for the execution of a collective agreement between the Corporation of the City of Pembroke and Local Number 24, the Canadian Union of Public Employees, be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation, awaiting your signature.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Giacono, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that bylaw 2024-12 being a bylaw to provide for the execution of a collective agreement between the Corporation of the City of Pembroke and Local Number 24, the Canadian Union of Public Employees, be adopted and passed, and further that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and Clerk and sealed with the seal of the Corporation. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship. The information was provided to council some time ago, and the bylaw is required to move forward.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next, we're moving on to motions. First is Resolution 2024-03, WPPP Annual Compliance Report 2023. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ed Giacono. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the City of Pembroke Drinking Water Systems 2023 Annual Water Report.
Okay, thank you. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Giacono. Be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Pembroke approves the City of Pembroke Drinking Water System 2023 Annual Water Report. Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak to it?
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Lewis came before us earlier tonight with the annual report that was required by the provincial government, and we have very good drinking water in the City of Pembroke.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next is Resolution 2024-004, Municipal Equipment Operator Course. Councillor Giacono.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of council, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Purcell. Whereas Corporation of the City of Pembroke supports the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors in calling on the provincial government to assist in the development of a municipal equipment operator course, and whereas municipal public works departments from across the province of Ontario provide invaluable services to our communities, ensuring the health and safety of all residents. And whereas, if it was not for our municipal public works employees from across the province of Ontario, maintaining our public road system, our communities would not be able to function, as emergency personnel could not respond to calls, school buses could not get our children to school, residents would not be able to get to work, school appointments, or many other basic functions. Whereas municipal public works departments are already feeling the impacts of a labor shortage, which will only be exacerbated over the next 3 to 5 years, which will cause levels of service municipalities are able to provide to ensure the health and safety of our residents to decrease. And whereas there is currently no provincial-wide course that properly trains potential municipal public works employees, especially relating to municipal heavy equipment. Therefore, be it resolved, the City of Pembroke supports the work of the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors to develop a municipal equipment operator course to address this issue. And be it further resolved that the City of Pembroke calls on the Province of Ontario's Minister of Labour, Training, Immigration and Skilled Trades to fully fund the municipal equipment operators course in 2024 during the Skills Development Fund, through the Skills Development Fund. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Minister of Labour, Training and Immigration and Skilled Trades, David Piccini, the City of Pembroke Member of Provincial Parliament, John Yakubuski, and the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors. Waiting your signature, Your Worship.
The indulgence of the committee, the next three were discussed this evening, are lengthy. You've heard it from the individual making the motion, so with the indulgence of committee, I'm simply not going to reread it.
Please dispense with rereading it.
Thank you. So I'll call the question. Those in favor of this resolution? That is carried. Thank you. Brings us to the next one. Councillor Purcell, 2024-005, amendment of the OHSA.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Keel, whereas the Corporation of the City of Pembroke supports the request that the province amend the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the definition of employer, and whereas in 2015, the City of Greater Sudbury entered into a contract with a contractor experienced in a road construction project to complete a project on Elgin Street in Sudbury's downtown core, whereas the contract provided the contractor would be the constructor for the project as what term is defined in the Occupational Health and Safety Act, and whereas an employee of the contractor operated a grader on the project, struck and killed a pedestrian, and whereas the city was charged with offenses under the Act as the constructor and the employer, and whereas after being acquitted at trial and on appeal, the Ontario Court of Appeal, in a decision issued on April the 23rd, 2021, found that the city to be liable for contraventions of the construction regulations as an employer, as it employed quality control inspectors to monitor the work on the project from time to time, and whereas the Supreme Court of Canada, in a decision issued on November the 10th, 2023, was evenly divided 4-4 on the issue, resulting in dismissal of the city's appeal. And whereas the consequences of the decision is that the municipality in Ontario, as well as all other owners of property in the province who wish to undertake construction, are subject to being charged and convicted as an employer for offenses in relation to project sites for which they have no control and have, in accordance with the Act, contracted with an entity to assume plenary oversight and authority over the work on such site as a contractor, and whereas the potential of an owner being charged as an employer as the term is defined in the Act in circumstances where it is engaged, a constructor disregards and renders meaningless the owner's constructor provisions contained in the Act and presents an unacceptable level of increased risk and confusion for owners and contractors throughout the province, and whereas the City of Pembroke believes that the safety of workers is paramount, however, safety of workers on construction projects in Ontario is not increased by placing liability on parties that do not have control of and are not responsible for the conduct of work on such sites. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the City of Pembroke requests the province amend the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the definition of employer to exclude owners that have contracted with the constructor for a project. And be it further resolved that the motion be provided to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Honourable David Piccini, Minister of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, and Honourable Paul Calandra, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, John Yakubuski, MPP for Renfrew County, and the Association of Municipalities for Ontario. And we will give you permission not to reread that.
Thank you. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Purcell, or?
I certainly could just give a Cole's Notes version. So the resolution was just to amend the Occupational Health and Safety Act, clarifying the definition of employer as a result of an occupational-related injury or accident that took place in 2015 in the greater city of Sudbury. It has significant impacts to health and safety initiatives as well as limiting liability. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. And the last resolution for this evening is 2024-006, non-union compensation. Councillor Purcell.
Probably get a breather there. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Creel. Whereas the Corporation of the City of Pembroke has entered into collective agreements with Local Number 24, the Canadian Union of Public Employees, for the period of January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2027. Now therefore that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke authorizes the non-union staff to receive the same economic increase, being January 1st of 2024, an increase of 3.25%, from January 1st, 2025, 3.25%, January 1st, 2026, 3.25%, January 1st, 2026, 3.25%. Now therefore the Council of the Corporation of the City of Pembroke authorizes the non-union staff to receive the vacation increase, being the vacation year starts on January 1st and ends on December the 31st. So upon hire, accumulate 1.2.5 days per month for each calendar year month worked up to December 31st. Beginning January 1st of the vacation year, during which the employee will complete 1 year of employment, they are accredited with 15 working days of vacation leave. Beginning January 1st of vacation year, during the employee will complete 5 years of employment, they are accredited with 20 working days of vacation leave. Beginning January 1st of vacation year, during which the employee will complete 15 years of employment, they are credited with 25 working days of vacation leave. Beginning January 1st of the vacation year, during which the employee will have completed 20 years of employment, they are credited with 30 working days of vacation leave. Now therefore the Council and the Corporation of the City of Pembroke authorizes the non-union staff to receive the wellness days. Employees are provided with 2 paid wellness days per calendar year. Employees may not carry over these days from year to year and shall have no cash value upon termination. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Dispense.
if you have a breather, did you wish to speak to this one?
I certainly will. So again, this resolution just more or less addresses the non-unionized staff, that they're provided the same increases and vacation entitlements as our unionized fellow employees. So thank you.
Thank you. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next is Mayor's Report. So good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to bring to you my Mayor's Report. As colder temperatures stay in and set in, and we have a mix of different weather, I would just again please emphasize for people to stay off the bodies of water. This weekend had yet more tragedies. People just simply are not heeding that warning. The warning also coming from the OPP. Anyways, please stay off the bodies of water. On February 8th, I attended the Brantford County District Health Unit Area Mayor's Update, which is always very informative and helpful, and I'm going to leave it at that point because I understand Councillor Purcell is going to provide us an update from the health unit. From the Pembroke Handy Bus, I wish to bring to your attention that the Handy Bus will be hosting a paint fundraiser with Artie Party is the name of the business. Details will be forthcoming. It will be a great night of fun, and will raise funds for this service for the seniors and those with intellectual and physical challenges. Further, the Pembroke Handy Bus is reviewing its hours and days of operation, and that there is a survey out, and they can contact the Pembroke Handy Bus at 735-6998. As always, be safe and kind to one another. Which brings us to notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion? Seeing none. Are there any councillor updates? Councillor Purcell.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple updates. The first is what you referred to in regards to the Brantford County District Health Unit. There was a press release that went out on February the 15th. The Brantford County District Health Unit is considering potential mergers with neighboring public health units. I don't think this is a surprise to anyone. I know that the province has been talking about this pre-COVID, even probably further than that, but I think it's coming into fruition in terms of at least the initial steps. So in 2023, the Ontario Ministry of Health announced a new initiative to support public health units that decide to pursue mergers with other health units. 3 years of funding to support mergers and stabilization of program will be provided to public health units pursuing a merger. The goal of supporting mergers is to enhance the capacity, the stability, and sustainability in the public health sector. Specific objectives include increasing the population served by the public health units to closer to 500,000 in population with consideration of geographical challenges, as well as improving critical mass through increase the size of the health units, enhancing health units' ability to recruit and retain staff, improve organizational performance, and also retaining local service delivery and frontline jobs. The province has indicated that mergers are not intended to reduce costs and the efficiencies realized by the merger would be retained by the public health units to support service delivery. Renfrew County District Health Unit serves a population of approximately 107,522 across a large geographical area of approximately 15,000 square kilometers. In the context of the support for the mergers offered by the province, Renfrew County District Health Board has passed a motion to apply for the potential funding to explore the feasibility of amalgamation with neighboring health units. As a result, Renfrew County District Health Unit is exploring benefits, risks, and the local impacts of potential mergers by collaborating on studies of several different merger scenarios. Joanne King, she is the Renfrew County District Health Unit Chair, stated that we welcome the opportunity to explore potential mergers with other public health units in support of enhancing public health capacity and effectiveness to better protect and promote the health of Renfrew County and district residents. Ensuring that we retain local service delivery and enhance public health services will be our primary focus as we consider the results of the feasibility studies and whether a merger makes sense for Renfrew County District Health Unit. All involved boards of health will independently consider the results of these studies and decide whether to proceed with any merger. Proposals for mergers must be endorsed by all involved board and health and are to be subject to the province in early April of 2024 with implementation of mergers intended to be January 2025. I do have a second update. Boy, I get lots of speaking time today. Maybe too much. I know Councillor Jackno kind of introduced the MESA program, and I know that we were talking a little bit of a budget in terms of the increase in terms of those shared services that we are provided through funding through Renfrew County, the County of Renfrew, sorry. So this is just an enhancement to the paramedic services and actually goes beyond the paramedic services. So this is kind of like hot off the press last week, and I think everybody will be pleased to hear that the current state of mental health, substance use, and addiction challenges in Renfrew County, I will not read the whole book, by the way. The City of Pembroke and Algonquins of Pequawagagon First Nations is applying significant social and health pressures on county residents. Community services as well as emergency services and urgent care delivery systems are strained under the additional pressures and challenges and our capacity to deliver basic service needs. Local data indicates that there's an increased demand for social health and emergency services that are placing our system at a high level of risk, and we're reaching a crisis point requiring innovative thinking, integrated support systems, and aligned strategic investments moving forward. So what this does, there's a direct correlation between mental health, substance use, and addiction, increasing demands for emergency services and social services. Planning on housing investments is well documented. In order to create, support effective and innovative solutions to mental health, addictions, and emergency services and housing issues, there's an evidence to action model that coordinates the services and integrates multi-sector approaches led collaboratively by the County of Renfrew's Administration, Community Services, Development and Property, and Emergency Services Department. The project name is MESA. And the primary role in terms of the Renfrew County MESA team It's an innovative model of care. The MESA team aligns the strategic efforts of the community services, development of property, paramedic services, and departments. This team approach to improve client experiences achieved by integrating and supporting existing networks of multi-sector partners, programs, resources, and treatments, and support in order to identify opportunities that strengthen individuals and collective efforts across health, social services, and housing sectors. These networks of providers and partners provide upstream community engagement and are interwoven approaches supported by aligned care of the County Health Services through a MESA team representative. The MESA team offers a wraparound approach to compassionate care in collaboration with existing 911 paramedic services, a homeless coordinator, and with an addition of mobile teams of paramedics, a crisis worker, support to strengthen community partner efforts, including lived experience and expertise. So the mobile unit focuses on day-to-day targeted engagement with vulnerable community members, coupled with inherent surge capacity to respond to crisis needs with trauma-informed care. The mobile MESA team works closely with partner organizations, local resources, mental health services, and support vulnerable community members. So you can see this is a significant investment. I think this builds upon the success in terms of the Renfrew County Virtual Triage and Assessment Center. It's kind of a very similar approach where there's going to be a mobile unit also provided with mental health services, addiction treatment services, and they will go to the most vulnerable, making sure that their medical needs are looked after, their mental health supports are available, as well as addiction treatment offerings. So as you're well aware, we're seeing increases in terms of drug types of issues within our community. We're no different than any other community in Canada and unfortunately around the world. So this is to address some of those types of issues, and I think it's a more collaborative approach. The whole goal, and there's, and I'll provide this document to everybody once I get the electronic copy. This is the only copy I have right now. But the whole goal is just to reduce the cost. So if you look at the costs associated with somebody that's in jail or in hospitals, $35,000 per month is what it costs. So if you go down the spectrum in terms of somebody that's in a shelter, it's $7,500 per month. If you go down to somebody that's in their own home in terms of supportive living and transitional housing, it's $3,500 per month. So again, we can reduce those upfront costs from people that are, have drug types of issues, that are staying out of jail, moving along the spectrum to get into, proper housing. The goal is if you have housing and you have the supports, you'll be successful in terms of, moving into that spectrum and working down that housing continuum to eventually home ownership or establishing a home through the county services. And this team will actually go out and make sure that their health needs are looked after, as well as the mental health and addiction pieces are looked after. So this was a significant investment. I think it was about $2.5 million was the budget. And you'll see that there was a Health Canada grant that was put in place for $2.5 million to offset some of those costs. We won't hear until June if we're successful in terms of receiving that grant. So in preparation, they've gone ahead and did the implementation because they recognize that there's significant cost recoveries that could be attributed to such a program. And again, it's an innovative way to build upon the successes in terms of Renfrew VTAC. So if anybody has any questions, I will be providing this document once I receive it electronically, and I'll share it to everybody. It's a great read, so please take the time and read it. Again, I think I presented this before in terms of this is just a paramedic program. It's just kind of building one step further in terms of the MESA. It's kind of, establish more of a holistic wraparound types of services that takes into consideration the housing component as well. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask or send me an email.
Thank you. Councillor Keel.
Just a couple brief updates, Your Worship. I was happy to attend at Holy Trinity Anglican Church on February 13th for their pancake lunch. There was certainly a lot of members of the community there, and including I bumped into former Councillor Severin, who was making sure everybody was well caffeinated. So it was great to see so many people out there. The Ottawa Valley Talent Showcase was on February 10th. This was the first of what I hope will be an annual event. I certainly want to congratulate the Fiddlers, which was a brother-sister duo. They came in first place. What a fantastic evening. For me, it was also an afternoon. I got to sit in the afternoon as their temporary judge, and then sit back and watch things. And I can tell you, I'm very happy that I didn't have to judge, because that was something else. The amount of talent that night was quite spectacular. The deputy mayor, of course, was there as an actual judge, and maybe he's going to tell us how hard it was to figure out who was in first on that one. February 14th, I attended at Festival Hall for Abba-Mania, featuring Adele, Shania, and the Bee Gees. It was a packed house, Your Worship, and it was great to see, well, just one, that it was an all-ages evening, so that was nice to see, and the amount of energy in the room was quite spectacular. Coming up at Festival Hall, there is Yuck Yucks this Saturday, and it is featuring Tyler Graveline, a local resident here in the Ottawa Valley, and then the Pembroke Symphony Orchestra has a Child's Play on March 2nd. But mostly what I want to tell council about is that the Festival Hall Consortium has approved over a $40,000 budget to upgrade the facility, including a new state-of-the-art screen and video projector, so that we will be able to offer movie and streaming type events with high quality. New speakers, including for the first time speakers that are going to be specifically for the upper level, because I know some people have raised concerns about that over the years. So this is following on the very successful seat campaign. We are now focused in, I guess, on the more technical elements to really make Festival Hall shine in this 21st century. And in order to do that, we are having a fundraiser evening featuring Elton Ron, who is an Elton John, I don't think it's the mayor, deputy mayor, no. So it's going to be an Elton John tribute performance on Sunday, April 21st. Tickets are $60, and again, the purpose of this particular event is to raise money for the $40,000 in upgrades to the Festival Hall. There will also be sponsorship opportunities, and we'll be using some of the money left over from the seat campaign as well. So again, for those people that are interested in perhaps seeing some movies at Festival Hall, or just interested in making it a better theater, as I said, April 21st, Elton Ron is, it's going to be for the purposes of fundraising towards this new equipment. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Elton Ron, that sounds interesting. Two things tonight. I have my Roma report. I also want to echo what Councillor Keel said. Congratulations to Dorian Pierce, Kitsissippi Productions on February 10th at the Festival Hall, Ottawa Valley Talent Showcase, the first one. Very difficult to judge, very tough. All the acts were excellent, and it was really, I thoroughly enjoyed it being a judge. And we want to thank the sponsors, Integrated Health, Des Patel and Councillor Keel. They were the lead sponsors, and all the sponsors. Thank you to all the artists that contributed, and all the volunteers and organizers. And shout out to Festival Hall, all the volunteers. The hall looks fantastic. So it brought back great memories for me when I used to rent it all the time. My wife and I, under Green Tomato Productions, and sitting there being a judge was an honor. So just a wonderful community event. I just want to give a report on Roma, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association Conference, which I attended January 21st to 23rd in Toronto. Excuse me. 1,000 municipal colleagues, provincial and federal elected officials, senior staff met in Toronto. Premier Ford gave a speech. Some of the highlights of his speech are investments in rural communities. He said that the province of Ontario, the government, has invested more money into rural communities than any other previous government in history. These include historic funding for economic development, supporting projects that diversify rural economies and create better paying jobs. Red tape reduction. The government has cut red tape, saving business and individuals time and money. Measures include reducing electricity rates, scrapping the cap and trade carbon tax, and keeping taxes and fees low. Job growth. Despite challenges like interest rate hikes and global supply chain disruptions, Ontario attracted billions of dollars in new investments in the last year, resulting in over 180,000 new jobs, including significant growth in the manufacturing sector. Health Minister Sylvia Jones spoke. She addressed the conference focusing on health-related matters. Public health system. Minister Jones discussed the province's longer-term approach to public health, emphasizing roles and responsibilities. Ontario will offer funding to public health units that voluntarily merge, aiming to improve services and streamline operations, as Councillor Purcell spoke about tonight. Mental health and addiction services. Minister Jones highlighted the commitment to improving mental health and addiction services. This aligns with the broader theme of community and supportive housing expansion. Housing Minister Paul Calandria spoke, and he mentioned the Building Faster Fund expansion. Premier Ford announced new details regarding the expansion of Ontario's $1.2 billion Building Faster Fund to small, rural, and northern municipalities that have not been assigned housing targets by the province. This initiative aims to accelerate housing development and address housing needs across Ontario. Other notable announcements: auto investment. Premier Ford highlighted Ontario's success in attracting $16 billion in new auto-related manufacturing investments, contributing to job growth across communities. Rural housing and homelessness. A main stage panel discussed rural housing and homelessness, emphasizing the importance of community and supportive housing. This topic was also covered by Health Minister Sylvia Jones. Delegates engaged in workshops, learned about critical issues, and networked with colleagues, provincial partners, and exhibitors. One of the main highlights for myself at the Roma Conference was coordinating a meeting with North Grenville Township regarding their new on-demand transit system. I want to thank my colleague from Augusta Township, Hendrik Pape, former Pembroke Kinsman Club member, for helping me to arrange the initial meeting. The CEO and I met with North Grenville's project lead on the transit system and another councillor. From this initial meeting, the mayor, CEO, and I took part in another meeting a couple of weeks later. Our treasurer was also in communication with North Grenville staff, and they've been very kind in providing key information and experiences to us. This collaboration led to the transit RFP being presented and supported by council at our last meeting. Without this connection to North Grenville and their key data sharing, this might not have occurred. We thank them very much. I also had key discussions with fellow councillors from across the province and local councillors, Petawawa, Laurentian Valley, and Whitewater, about the challenges of mental health, addiction, homelessness, affordable housing. As has been stated at previous council meetings, we are not alone in experiencing these challenges. The key takeaway is that it is a very complex issue, and there is no easy solution. It will take a comprehensive, community-wide approach involving all stakeholders and partners and funding from upper-level governments. Pembroke and Redford County cannot solve these challenges on our own budgets. The program, the MESA, that Councillor Purcell talked about tonight, is one example of hope for the new approach to solving these issues and challenges. Overall, the Roma Conference provided a platform for collaboration, knowledge, sharing, and innovative solutions to benefit Pembroke and rural Ontario communities. I encourage my fellow colleagues to attend next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the next up is, I understand, Deputy Mayor, you have a motion to move into a closed session.
Yes, Your Worship. Excuse me. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ed Jacquinot, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, as per Section 239 2B of the Municipal Act.
Thank you. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Jacquinot, that this meeting become a closed meeting to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, as per Section 239, Sub 2, Sub B of the Municipal Act. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll now move into a closed session.